On his deathbed, Shingziki was asked by reporters, "Professor Shing, what's your greatest regret in life?" He replied, "I should never have indulged Jiang Yanshu's emotional blackmail by marrying her. It cost me a lifetime with Wan Wan. Now all I can do is leave my patents and entire estate to Wan Wan as compensation." The emotional blackmail he referred to stemmed from him eloping on college entrance exam day, only to crash head-on into a truck. I happened to witness this scene on my way to the exam hall and instinctively rushed over to push him out of harm's way. He walked away unscathed, while I ended up paralyzed for life. Later, sensationalist media tracked me down and asked what I regretted most. I smiled wryly, perhaps regretting that I said yes when he proposed out of guilt, and ended up devoting my entire life to him. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been so insecure about lacking a degree that I credited him with all my research achievements over 3 decades. The moment the words left my mouth, I blinked, and found myself back on the day of the college entrance exams. I paused mid-step and took a different route to the examination hall. He regretted losing a love, I regretted losing my future. In this life, we'll go our separate ways and never cross paths again. When that deafening crash echoed again, every hair on my back stood on end. That same explosion in my past life turned my entire world upside down. Shingziki eloped with his sweetheart on college entrance exam day, only to collide head-on with a freight truck. In that critical moment I happened to witness. After growing up together for over a decade, I didn't hesitate before rushing forward to shove him out of harm's way. Saving him cost me permanent paralysis. Yet in that past life, I still met a tragic end. Held hostage by gratitude, those 4 cold words became the epitaph of my entire existence. Given a second chance at life, I never broke stride, pivoting without hesitation onto a new path as I strode decisively into the examination hall. 3 years of relentless studying finally paid off. Every answer on that test paper was a testament to my hard work. The moment I stepped out of the exam hall, I saw my parents waiting anxiously. "Yanshu, you're finally done. Xing Ziqin was in a car accident. Your father and I are going to see him. Do you want to come?" I feigned surprise but shook my head without hesitation. The road outside the school was crawling with traffic cops, practically one every 10 meters. How could he possibly get into an accident on his way to take the college entrance exam? "You guys go ahead, I need to prepare for tomorrow's exam." In my past life, I took Shingziki's place in that car crash while he turned his life around and went on to take the college entrance exam day. I was in a coma at the hospital for a week. Rumor has it he couldn't even be bothered to visit me during the entire exam period. Fine, I have no reason to waste any more time on him. After studying late into the night, I took several exams back to back. Fortunately, I never stopped learning in my past life because of my research work. It wasn't until I finished grading my exam and met my target score that I finally felt the tension ease. There was no avoiding visiting Shingziki any longer. After just 3 days apart, Shingziki's parents seemed to have aged a decade. Uncle Xing's hair turned white overnight, while Aunt Zhou's eyes were swollen like walnuts. I couldn't help but glance at my own parents. In my past life, I was the one who got hurt, and they were the ones who suffered. Thankfully, in this lifetime, everything has been set right. Aunt Zhou burst into tears again the moment she saw me. "Yanshu, Ziki will never be able to go out with you again. The doctor said it's a miracle Ziki survived it all, but he'll most likely never walk again." I tried to look appropriately grief-stricken, but my mind kept drifting to memories from my past life. In that previous life, I was the one who became paralyzed. That very summer, Shingziki proposed to me. We grew up together as childhood sweethearts. It'd be a lie to say I never had feelings for him, but watching him kneel before me, I shook my head. "I won't let you marry me out of guilt, Shingziki. I know there's someone else you love." My refusal came from the heart, yet he only answered with a mocking laugh. "Jiang Yanshu, do you really think I'm an idiot? After all this, can't I see who truly cares for me the most? You nearly died saving me. I genuinely want to marry you." Ever since the paralysis, I've been adamantly against using a wheelchair, but that time, he defied doctors, nurses, and both our parents, carrying me on his back to stroll through the park near the hospital. "You must be going stir-crazy staying indoors for so long. Jiang Yanshu, let me be your crutch from now on. I'll be your lifelong support." His words moved me, and I foolishly believed I'd found true love. Yet before 3 years of marriage had passed, he grew weary of this life. My lower body paralysis causes constant incontinence. I've lost count of how many times I've heard him say, a grown man soiling himself daily, "These hands were made for research. not cleaning up your filth. He's a tenured professor at a top-tier university, leading multiple research projects, but when I casually browsed his files, I discovered his experiment to accelerate muscle necrosis in paralyzed patients, deliberately inducing rapid complications. The moment I saw it, my blood ran cold. This perfectly illustrates how small favors create gratitude while large ones breed resentment. But karma caught up with him. His distraction during the experiment caused a lab fire. Everyone managed to escape, except for him who got trapped inside. I always believed karma would catch up with scum, but never imagined his dying wish would be leaving everything to that white moonlight who convinced him to elope during college entrance exams. My life's greatest regret was yielding to Jiang Yanshu's emotional blackmail to marry her, making me miss a lifetime with Wanwan. Now, all I can do is compensate Wanwan with my patents and inheritance. If possible, I'd rather bear all suffering than spend my life with someone I never loved, a bedridden cripple like me, stripped of inheritance. My fate was all too predictable. 2. When I opened my eyes again, I'd been reborn. I won't exploit past favors. Nor do I want any further entanglement with him. In this lifetime, I really want to see if these star-crossed lovers can finally make it work. Oh Yanshu, stop pacing around. You're making me dizzy. My mom tried to pull me down to sit, while Aunt Shou choked up and said, they've always been so close. Yanshu's just too worried to stay still. I gave an awkward laugh and didn't explain. It's not that I can't sit still. It's just that I've been sitting for so long in my past life. I've nearly forgotten what it feels like to move freely. Just as we were talking, several doctors and nurses suddenly rushed into the ward. What's going on? The patient's awake. They pressed the call button themselves. The group rushed in, with Aunt Shou and Uncle Shin on the verge of tears, while my mother couldn't bear to look and turned her head away. Only I kept staring at him for a long time. Shinziki's head was wrapped in thick bandages, both legs completely cast in plaster. He looked like a mummy. Through him, I seemed to see my past self. How tragic. I'm not worth this suffering. Shinziki's lips parted slowly, laboriously forming the word mom. Aunt Shou sobbed loudly by the bedside, yet Shinziki's gaze wandered restlessly across every face in the room. He was searching for Li Wanwan. Son, just rest now. Don't think about anything else, just get some proper rest. Shinziki nodded slowly, and only after a long pause did he notice something was off with his body. He looked at his legs and broke into a grin. Mom, why's my leg wrapped up so sloppily? Take a photo for me. I want to post it on Moments. The people in the hospital room exchanged glances. Aunt Shou couldn't bring herself to break the terrible news, so she just took out her phone and snapped a picture for him. But the moment she placed the phone in his hands, Aunt Shou rushed out of the ward with reddened eyes, unable to hold back her emotions. What's wrong with my mom? Nobody knew how to respond, but Shinziki was sharp. He quickly sensed something was off. He panicked briefly, yet managed to say, why the long faces? Surviving disaster means good fortune awaits. Isn't that the saying? Uncle Shing wiped his face with his hand. Yes, yes. His voice cracked with emotion as he spoke, finally making Shinziki genuinely panic. What's wrong with me? Tell me, damn it. The room fell silent, but a twisted sense of satisfaction rose within me. I said with a hint of vindictiveness, the doctor said you'll most likely be paralyzed for life. Shinziki froze in shock. His dying words from his past life had manifested. Karma came full circle, but for some reason, he didn't look happy at all. He frantically pounded his leg with his other hand. No way, how could I be paralyzed when I'm already awake? I'm only 18 years old. Uncle Shing rushed to restrain him in alarm as Shinziki broke down in hysterical sobs. Dad, I'm only 18, I'd rather die than live paralyzed. Stop the treatment, I don't want to live anymore, I really don't. I lowered my gaze to hide the coldness in my eyes. He chose this path himself, every single decision was his own making. Why is he never satisfied no matter the outcome? 3. Out of family friendship, my mother cooked for Aunt Shou's household, leaving meal deliveries to me. My visits were the only time Aunt Shou could step out for fresh air, but after a week in hospital, Shinziki remained listless. Are you eating or not? I'm running out of patience. If you're not eating, I'll tell Mom not to cook. It's sweltering to cook in summer. Shinziki avoided answering and instead looked up at me, saying, has Li Wanwan contacted you? I chuckled. Why would she contact me? Shinziki's face flashed with urgency again. She wants to visit me, but she'd feel awkward around my parents. You're the only one she can reach out to. If she does contact you, tell her I'm doing fine and not to worry. Say it's my fault. I broke my promise. I failed to take her to some place where nobody knows us when it mattered most. Truly, the difference between love and its absence couldn't be more obvious. Just thinking about my past life makes my blood boil, so I ended up eating my mom's cooking by myself. Then I poured cold water on his enthusiasm. You're overthinking it. They probably never wanted to leave in the first place. Shinziki froze for a moment, a flicker of confusion flashing in his eyes. What do you mean, at this point? Stop trying to sow discord between us. I looked up at him and found his behavior utterly ridiculous. Li Wanwan took the college entrance exam in the same testing center as me. Besides, what would I gain from driving a wedge between you two? Right now, nothing would please me more than seeing those two stuck together for good. No one understands the agony of paralysis better than I do. Endless bedsores, wasting muscles, lying in your own filth waiting to be cleaned, if left unattended. That stench lingers right under your nose. Over time, the smell seeps into your very being. I'm dying to see if Shinziki's lifelong sweetheart can truly remain devoted to him till the end. Why would Wanwan take the college entrance exam? We'd agreed to. The word elope never quite made it past his lips. When I left, he was still staring blankly at his phone. The moment I closed the door, I heard him hastily making a phone call. Hearing Li Wanwan's voice made me freeze in my tracks. Who is it? Shinziki's voice trembled with emotion. Wanwan, it's me. I was in a car accident. Sorry, I promised we'd elope together, but I can't make it. You didn't wait too long, did you? See, that's love. Even after a car accident, you'd still feel guilty for breaking a promise. Without love, even if I became bedridden for him, he'd still think I had ulterior motives. The next second, Li Wanwan's raised voice rang out. What elopement, Shinziki? Don't spread nonsense. A girl's reputation matters. You had the car accident on your way to the college entrance exams. It's got nothing to do with me. Got it? I couldn't help but laugh. After the call ended, Shinziki's choked sobs soon filled the hospital room. I left carrying the lunchbox. Couldn't even last a week. Yet there's a whole lifetime ahead, with results coming out in about a week. I started scrambling to research schools and plan applications. My mom insisted on cooking for Shinziki, but he'd always sulk and refuse to eat when she delivered the meals. Back in the day, I'd pull out all the stops just to get him to eat. Now I only ask once each time. If he won't eat it, I'll happily finish it all myself. Even my mom noticed something was off. Why does Ziki look skinnier these days while you've clearly put on weight? I pretended not to hear and brushed off my mom's comment. In the following days, I even used college application research as an excuse to avoid delivering meals. But somehow, news about Shinziki's elopement car accident suddenly spread throughout the school. My mom got a call from Aunt Jo the next morning. Something's happened. Come quick. Our families always helped each other out, so my parents rushed over without hesitation. I went along with the mindset of watching the drama unfold. The moment we stepped off the elevator, we saw a crowd gathered inside and outside the hospital room. There were even reporters. As we approached, Li Wanwan stood by the bed with red-rimmed eyes while her parents hurled abuse nearby. Is this how you raised your son? His car accident is his own damn business. Why drag our daughter into this? Now everyone's saying your son's accident was caused by my daughter. How is she supposed to live with that for the rest of her life? Aunt Jo and Uncle Shing had caught wind of the rumors these past few days. Before they could even speak up, the girl's family had the nerve to play the victim first. Aunt Jo's expression turned icy. Madam, let's be reasonable. My son's phone is already being recovered for chat records. We'll soon see what really happened. My son's in this condition, and Li Wanwan couldn't even bother to visit. Then when she finally shows up, all she does is yell at him. Your daughter's reputation took a hit, but my son, he'll never walk again for the rest of his life. Aunt Jo broke down in tears as she spoke. Reporters at the door seized the moment to push through. Cameras trained on both parties from either side. Did you two really plan to elope together? Li Wanwan fidgeted with her skirt, visibly guilty. After a long silence, Shinziki suddenly spoke up. No, it was me who got into a car accident on my way to the college entrance exam. I'm the one who has unrequited feelings for Li Wanwan. A flicker of surprise crossed Li Wanwan's eyes as she looked up. I couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Shinziki's devotion runs deep. No wonder he willed his entire fortune to Li Wanwan on his deathbed in his past life. 5. The reporter left in a huff after failing to get the answers they wanted. The interview clip went viral online almost instantly. Everyone called Shinziki the patron saint of love-struck fools, and their story became legendary throughout the entire high school. I stopped paying much attention to them because the college entrance exam results were coming out that evening. The night before the results were released, my parents and I stayed up late staring at our phones. When we finally saw my score of 690, my parents couldn't contain their excitement and shouted out loud. My eyes welled up with tears as I choked out, "Mom, Dad, I can finally pursue what I truly want to do. I'm finally free from being held back by academic qualifications." In my past life, a car accident prevented me from taking the college entrance exam, forever losing my chance at university. After marrying Shinziki, he would always bring his lab data home with him. With time on my hands, I began teaching myself and even made several scientific breakthroughs, but due to academic restrictions, I had to credit all my research achievements under Shinziki's name, this lifetime. The three bold characters Jiang Yenshu can finally be inscribed wherever my hands can reach. My mom cupped my face and planted a kiss. "Sweetheart, just name your reward." Seeing my parents' eyes brimming with tears, I couldn't help but pull them both into a hug. In my past life, I was bedridden with paralysis, and Mom wore herself out taking care of me. My greatest wish back then was just to take daily walks with my parents, go grocery shopping, and live those simple, heartwarming moments normal families share. "What's gotten into this kid today?" Burying my face in Mom's arms, I mumbled, "I want to go out with you both. Tomorrow you're mine, no work, no excuses." My parents agreed without hesitation, even looking pleasantly surprised. We got ready to leave early the next morning, but as we stepped out, we ran straight into Xing Ziqian, who had just returned from the hospital. The smiles froze on my parents' faces, quickly replaced with looks of concern. Just as I was about to speak, I saw Li Wanwan stepping out from the passenger seat. "What's this?" Aunt Zhou wore a complicated expression, forcing an awkward smile. "These two are getting engaged." I raised an eyebrow. Weren't they at each other's throats just the other day? Shinziki, unusually free from his usual gloom, openly held Li Wanwan's hand. "We're holding the engagement party the day after tomorrow. Don't forget to come. By the way, where are you two headed?" My parents exchanged glances and said, "The college entrance exam results are out. Yenshu scored 690 and is begging us to take her out to celebrate." Aunt Zhou was genuinely happy for me, but couldn't hide her disappointment for her own son. Even after getting in the car, Mom kept muttering to herself, "Didn't she dislike Ziki? How come she's suddenly getting engaged?" I silently scrolled through the school's confession wall. How will this called-off engagement end, after all? Li Wanwan has become quite the celebrity on campus. Shinziki was top of his class, but this scandal ruined him. Public opinion can crush a person alive, but I get the feeling that girl isn't particularly into Ziki. I gazed out the window with a knowing smile. If they were truly meant for each other, Li Wanwan wouldn't have said those things during their phone call. My mom even prepared a hefty red envelope for the engagement party. 6. Li Wanwan stood there in her qipao, while Shinziki remained confined to his wheelchair. They couldn't even fit in the same frame when trying to take a photo together. Li Wanwan grew visibly impatient in under 5 minutes. Shinziki, I watched as Shinziki, paralyzed from the waist down, painfully raised himself slightly by pushing against the wheelchair armrests with his arms. Li Wanwan's expression finally softened a little. "Yenshu, could you take a photo for us, please?" I took the camera and snapped several shots, sincerely saying, "Wishing you a lifetime of happiness together." Li Wanwan smiled, but when her gaze swept over Shinziki's legs, the disdain and disgust in her eyes were unmistakable. Shinziki's, however, looked at me and said thank you. All of this didn't escape Aunt Zhou's notice. She held my hand tightly and wouldn't let go. "Yenshu, why is Shinziki so disobedient? You're such a wonderful girl. And you two grew up together since childhood." I knew exactly what Aunt Zhou was about to say, so I cut her off before she could speak. "Auntie, Shinziki's heart belongs to Li Wanwan. Despite some minor hiccups, they've become a match made in heaven. You should be happy they're getting engaged." Aunt Zhou wiped her tears, her trembling fingers gently tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. "Yenshu, when you're at university, remember to show me what campus life is like." I nodded with a smile, though my heart ached faintly. It wasn't because of Shinziki. My heart went out to Uncle Sheng and Aunt Zhou. They could have enjoyed their golden years like my parents, but this incident trapped them for the rest of their lives. I applied to Tsinghua University. 7. A month before school started, my parents gave me money to travel the world properly. I visited 4 or 5 countries, making up for the regrets of my past life in a big way. Right after the semester started, I dragged my luggage straight to campus registration. Having missed out in my past life, I now cherish every campus experience with fresh wonder. I thrive on friendly academic rivalry with roommates, but enjoy our gossip sessions even more. Drawing from past life experience, I secured a spot in a professor's research team early on. This time, I no longer have to work silently behind the scenes. I can finally be my authentic self without reservations. By the end of the semester, I'd already gained considerable experience. When returning home for the holidays, I brought back some local specialties for my parents, but before I could even meet my parents, I unexpectedly ran into Auntie Jo in our neighborhood. Aunt Jo looked like a completely different person after just 3 months apart. Aunt Jo, she used to visit the beauty salon weekly with my mom, maintaining her youthful appearance despite being in her 50s. This time, not only had her hair turned noticeably gray, but deep wrinkles had also appeared. Aunt Jo froze for a second when she saw me. "Yenshu's back already. Your holiday came so quickly." I gave her some local treats I'd brought back, then couldn't resist gossiping with my parents after getting home. "What's happened to Aunt Jo recently? She's aged so much in just a few months." Even though Shinziki's health isn't great, they could always hire a caregiver. My parents exchanged glances and sighed helplessly. It's not because of Shinziki, but that Li Wanwan. Only after my parents spoke did I realize it was all Li Wanwan's doing. She'd only scored around 300 points on the college entrance exam, barely enough for a mediocre vocational college. Given Shinziki's health condition and their engagement, the Xing family wanted Li Wanwan to attend a local university. Li Wanwan initially agreed, but changed her mind the very next day. She demanded either 5 million to compensate for her education, or she'd study in the south and only return once a year. Shinziki's dependence on Li Wanwan made the Xing family unwilling to see their son give up on himself. Uncle Xing had no choice but to reluctantly agree to the matter. But ever since Shinziki's accident, the Xing family's business has been in decline. The additional expenses for Li Wanwan's future wedding, housing, a car, and dowry suddenly piled immense pressure on Aunt Jo and Uncle Xing. Since they're both willing to marry, these issues can be properly discussed through calm negotiation. Aunt Jo happened to pass by our house, and my mother shook her head as she watched her increasingly hunched back. "Do you know what Li Wanwan's mother said? She said your son is now a good-for-nothing, and my daughter's willingness to stand by him and marry him is pure kindness, otherwise he'd be doomed to stay single forever." She even claimed the money from the Xing family wasn't a dowry but compensation for emotional distress, insisting it all be kept by Li Wanwan's mother after the wedding. Only then did I learn that Uncle Xing fell seriously ill over this matter. Li Wanwan would give Shinziki the cold shoulder unless they paid up. But everyone's got their own fate. Shinziki chose this path himself. He's got no one else to blame. The next morning, I happened to see Li Wanwan pushing Shinziki outside for some fresh air. 8. Claiming it was for fresh air, she left Shinziki baking under the June sun while retreating to the shade herself. Watching from a distance, I caught Shinziki's gaze. He gave me a faint, strained smile. Unlike last time, his smile now carried a tinge of bitterness. Li Wanwan sat beneath the tree fanning herself and scrolling through her phone, only to glance up at me moments later. "Yenshu, perfect timing. Could you keep an eye on things for me? I need to run back for a bit." "God, it's boiling out here." I couldn't help but smirk at Shinziki, who was sitting directly under the scorching sun, sweat pouring down his face. Is he seriously just roasting himself out here? Li Wanwan waved her hand. "Getting some sunshine is good for your health." I opened my mouth but ultimately held back. After all, every villain meets their match. Shinziki studied me for a moment before speaking first. "Is college life more interesting?" I nodded at first, then shook my head. I'd asked him the same question in my past life, but Shinziki simply said, "Interesting or not, you can't go. Right now your priority is sorting out your basic survival needs. This lifetime." I threw those same words back at him. "Whether it's interesting or not, you can't go anyway. Right now, the priority is taking care of your basic needs." The heat makes smells spread faster, even standing 2 meters away. I could smell the stench of stale sweat and bodily waste on him. Shinziki flushed with embarrassment, murmuring after a long pause, "College life sure is nice. It's wonderful that you and Li Wanwan finally found happiness together." With that, Li Wanwan walked out of the house. I turned away to attend to my own affairs, but faintly heard Shinziki murmur, "Is it really that wonderful?" I barely had any downtime during the entire break. 9. Not only did I catch up with high school friends over meals, But the real surprise was discovering a senior from my research group lives just around the corner. We decided to grind through another productive summer together. While I was buried in academic reports at home, Shinziki's household next door suddenly turned upside down. The racket starts at the crack of dawn every day, and it's been going nonstop for 3 straight days. On the 4th day, Aunt Jo finally couldn't take it anymore and came to our house in tears. "What on earth is going on? Why's your place been so lively lately?" my mom asked while comforting Aunt Jo. Aunt Jo said with swollen eyes from crying. Li Wanwan alone had already put everyone on edge, and now her mother and brother have moved into our home too. Ziki's health still hasn't fully recovered, he should be resting now, but they've turned the house upside down. Forget about Ziki. Even we can't stand the chaos anymore. My jaw dropped in shock. To think Li Wanwan's mother and brother had actually moved into the Xing household. If this is already happening now, what do you think will happen if you get married? My mom, with her exceptional empathy, was so furious she started slamming the table. After all this time, Ziki's feelings for her still haven't faded. There are so many women in the world. Does it have to be Li Wanwan? At this point, Aunt Jo fell silent. No one knows their own son better than themselves. After Aunt Jo left, my mom was so upset she skipped dinner altogether. "Mom, this is Shinziki's own choice of fiancé. Don't you remember how madly in love he was back then? Let's just respect their decision and wish them well. It's not our place to interfere with others' lives." That's wisdom from my past life. Mom nodded, and seeing how bored she was, I took her out for an evening stroll. We went to the nearby shopping district, where I bought Mom an ice cream, just like she used to do for me when I was little. "Mom, when are Shinziki and Li Wanwan getting married?" My mother remained silent, studying me with a searching gaze. "Yenshu, your father might be clueless, but your mother sees everything clearly. About Shinziki, we grew up together, and wherever we went, people would tease us about being a pair." Over time, inappropriate thoughts began to take root in my heart. Instead of denying it, I countered my mother's question with one of my own. "Do you really want your daughter to marry a paralyzed man?" Holding the ice cream, my mother replied with grave seriousness, "I'd never want my daughter to marry someone who's in love with another." "I'm relieved you didn't stubbornly insist on this." I chuckled and leaned against my mother's shoulder. It wasn't that I didn't insist. My past life had already taught me that lesson the hard way. Just as I was about to speak, Mom suddenly raised a finger to her lips. "Look, isn't that Li Wanwan and her brother?" Following my mom's gaze, I saw Li Wanwan intimately holding hands with her own brother, acting all lovey-dovey. My mom immediately covered my eyes. 10. Not suitable for children, not suitable. I pushed my mom's hand away and quickly snapped a photo, zooming in on the image. That's definitely Li Wanwan's younger brother. The whole family lives with the Shins, but why would she be with her own brother, doing something like this? My mother's face turned grim as she wordlessly dragged me back home. I did some asking around on the way. Li Wanwan is an only child, she doesn't have any younger brother. In other words, the 3 of them, Li Wanwan included, played Uncle Xing's family for fools. My mom was pacing anxiously around the house. Should we really tell Aunt Jo about this? We can't just stand by and watch Li Wanwan cheat on Shinziki, especially right under the Xing family's nose. My father stopped my mother. "We can't rashly spread this news. Look how devoted Ziqing is to Wanwan. If this backfires, we might earn their lasting resentment." I shared my father's perspective. It's not indifference, but sheer exhaustion from constant fear. The truth always comes out. It's only a matter of time before Li Wanwan's affair with that boy gets exposed. After reaching a consensus, the 3 of us unanimously decided to play dumb about the whole situation. I resumed my usual hectic routine, keeping myself constantly occupied, but to my surprise, Shinziki was sitting alone by the roadside when I returned that evening. His gloomy expression made me wonder if he'd discovered something. Jiang Yenshu, 11. I tried to walk past unnoticed, but he called out to me, "It's getting late, aren't you heading home?" He stared at me for a moment before forcing a strained smile. "That person who just walked you back was..." I frowned, finally realizing he was talking about my senior. "We went to the campsite in the neighboring district together today, and he just drove me back. But there's no need for me to explain these things to him." I shot back, "What do you want?" Shinziki lowered his head to stare at his legs, and when he looked up again, his eyes were red. "The doctor said." His voice choked up. "The doctor said my leg isn't healing well. It needs to be amputated." I raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. This was exactly what I'd expected. After all, when he took me from my parents in our past life, I ended up in the ICU for 2 days with an infection too. It's only natural that the condition worsens without proper care, but I just brushed it off with, "Is that so? Get some rest, it's getting late, I should head back now." I turned to leave, but Shinziki caught me by the wrist. I jerked my hand away as if electrocuted, feeling thoroughly repulsed from head to toe. "Spit it out." My tone was sharp, yet Shinziki's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Jiang Yanshu, why are you being so cold to me now?" I was momentarily speechless, my brows knitting together involuntarily. "Shinziki, you're engaged now. Have some self-respect." "I may be engaged, but I can still call it off for you." I had no idea what sudden madness possessed him. Shinziki's emotions suddenly surged, his fingers gripping the wheelchair armrests with white-knuckled intensity. "Jiang Yanshu, where were you the day of my car accident? At the exact moment the crash happened, didn't you see it?" My heart sank as I noticed Shinziki's expression shift abruptly. "Just as I expected," he said again. "If you had saved me back then, would our lives be different now? I wouldn't have to spend my days in this wheelchair." Hearing this, I was certain he'd also been reborn. "Fine then, finally don't have to keep pretending anymore." I tore off his hypocritical mask. "Of course it's different. When I saved you, I became the one who got into the car accident. By then you'll go to college, become a professor, achieve all these research accomplishments, while I'll just be that scheming woman who saved you to demand repayment." With every word I spoke, Shinziki's face grew paler. He stared at me in shock, his words stumbling out haltingly. "Jiang Yanshu, you've been reborn just like me, haven't you?" Seeing this reincarnated Shinziki before me, waves of hatred surged in my heart. "Instead of obsessing over this, why don't you go home and take a good look at that cuckold's hat on your head in the mirror?" I walked straight into the house without looking back. Shinziki loved Li Wanwan to the core, tolerating almost everything for her. But would a man like that really let his woman cheat on him? I was hoping for some commotion next door. 12. But after my shower, only Uncle Sheng and Aunt Zhou showed up at home. I asked pointedly, "What are Shinziki and Li Wanwan up to?" Aunt Zhou shook her head. "Ziki's acting strange tonight. Said it's been ages since we hung out with you guys. Practically pushed us out the door to come over." I stayed silent, just staring through the glass partition at the neighbors. What's Shinziki really up to? Uncle Sheng and Aunt Zhou were making small talk with my parents, the conversation drifting aimlessly. But when I turned around absent-mindedly, thick smoke was suddenly billowing from the neighboring house. I froze for a moment before realizing Shinziki's intention. He chose the same way to die as in his past life. "Uncle, Aunt, look, is something wrong with your house?" They sprang to their feet at the sight of thick smoke and bolted home. But Shinziki had made up his mind. When the door opened, the entire house was already engulfed in flames. Faint sobs and cries for help could still be heard. Aunt Zhou was so frantic she nearly passed out, while Uncle Sheng tried everything to find water to put out the fire, but to no avail. My dad did call 119 immediately though, but it was too late. By the time firefighters arrived, the blaze had already consumed most of the house, supporting Aunt Zhou as we stepped inside. She broke down at the sight of her home in complete ruins. "I've never done anything wrong in my life. Why must I be punished like this?" "Ziki, my son," sobbing. Firefighters pulled several bodies from the blaze, all charred beyond recognition. Uncle Sheng's legs gave way as he collapsed to his knees. How could everything go so wrong so suddenly? The room fell into complete silence, broken only by muffled sobs. But moments later, Uncle Sheng's phone suddenly pinged. "It's a message from our son, Mom, Dad, it's Ziqiao. I've been unfilial, stubbornly rebelling to chase after that wretched Li Wanwan, wasting all your hard-earned money." In that critical moment I happened to witness. After growing up together for over a decade, I didn't have time to think. I just rushed forward and pushed him away. Those two kept having affairs in my bed while I was asleep. "Mom, Dad, I just can't take it anymore. If there's a next life, your son will repay you even if it means serving as your ox or horse." Aunt Zhou and Uncle Sheng were sobbing uncontrollably, while my parents exchanged bewildered glances. The bodies were burned beyond recognition, so they had to be buried together. After arranging Shinziki's funeral, Aunt Zhou fell seriously ill. The only consolation was that while we lost people, the money was secured, though little remained of their savings. It was enough for the elderly couple's retirement. After the semester started, I went back to school. My mom keeps using Shinziki as a cautionary tale, warning me not to lose my head over romance. I facepalmed in exasperation. Been there, done that. I'm never making the same mistake again in this lifetime. I'm completely devoted to academia. almost obsessively chasing name recognition. My roommates all called me a freak. Give us mortals a break, will you? How many research papers have you published already? E&D. Next story. After 7 years of marriage, Jiangqing finally asked for a divorce over a mistress. He said, Su Huan, she is different from other girls, she remained a virgin for me. I nodded silently. I suppressed my inner excitement, afraid that it might be seen. Heaven knows, if he didn't bring up the divorce any sooner, I would have been unable to hold back. Last night, the hot-tempered prince used 800 different positions to force me to make him my official boyfriend, and my whole body is still trembling uncontrollably. 1. When I took the divorce agreement from Jiangqing, my whole body was trembling. Su Huan, I'm sorry to you. Jiangqing, seeing me trembling uncontrollably, said helplessly, this girl remained a virgin for me. I need to give her a status. I understand. I nodded. My body still couldn't be controlled, it kept shaking. Especially my legs, they were shaking like a sieve, but I was completely unaware, and I was very seriously looking at the content of the divorce agreement. My marriage to Jiangqing lasted 7 years, we were childhood friends, got into a relationship in high school, and got married right after college. At the wedding, Jiangqing cried like a dog, saying that he was lucky enough to be able to marry me, but in the 3rd year of our marriage, he had someone else, the first time I found out. He was very nervous and begged me for forgiveness. I forgave him, so there were the 2nd, 3rd, and nth times, but he said that no matter how he played outside, his wife would always be me. But this time, he finally proposed to me for a little canary. I have met that girl, she's just 20 years old, very delicate, she likes to call Jiangqing at midnight, and as soon as she calls, she cries. She cries so much that Jiangqing's heart is broken. To comfort the girl, Jiangqing spends more and more time away from home. Today he suddenly came back, which surprised me a lot. What if we met? That would be embarrassing. 2. I started having someone else a year ago. Jiangqing doesn't know. It's not that I intentionally kept it a secret, he just hasn't paid attention to me for a long time, or, he truly doesn't think I would betray him. I heard him on the phone with a friend, Su Huan. She can't get away from me, even if I'm out there doing whatever. She will still be waiting at home for me. At that moment, I suddenly started reflecting on myself. Why can he? Why can't I? Why can he casually say, it's normal for men to have affairs outside, but I can't? Pain leads to reflection, so, I bravely broke free from the chains of marriage. The first person I cheated with was Hua Wenxiu, the heir of the Hua family. That night he was fighting in a bar, and I was watching the commotion from the side. As a bystander, I just made a comment. Young people have such a short temper, but he caught me. Auntie, my temper on the bed is even stronger, want to try? I looked at his face, which was full of bruises but still handsome, and his well-defined chest muscles and round, firm buttocks. I dared to spend a night with him, but once I did, I couldn't get rid of him. Hua Wenxiu's clingy behavior was even worse than Jiangqing's little canary. At first, he was only clinging to me in bed, gradually starting to be overbearing. He really wants me to give him a formal status. Just like last night, this prince came to my house in the middle of the night, acting as if he had taken the wrong medicine, and forced me to make it official. I didn't give in, and he dragged me through the whole night. If it wasn't for him having to go on a business trip this morning, it might have collided with Jiangqing. 3. Jiangqing's phone has been ringing non-stop. His little canary has already been unable to hold back and has called several times. The sound was a bit loud, and I could hear it. On the other end, he was crying and arguing. Why is it taking so long to get a divorce? Is the other party not agreeing? You promised me, even if you had to leave with nothing, you would divorce her. Are you lying to me? Hearing the words, leave with nothing, my eyes lit up. Jiangqing whispered to her. Almost there, stay at home and wait for me. I'll buy you the duck neck you like later. An hour, at most an hour, you must be back. Okay. Jiangqing hung up the phone. Su Huan, there's nothing wrong, just sign it, Jiangqing urged me. Actually, the divorce agreement wasn't a big issue. Jiangqing gave me half of my assets. It was obvious that he was sincere. I could have accepted it, but thinking about my current status and the years of enduring humiliation. If you don't take the advantage, you'll be unlucky for a lifetime. Don't take advantage of a scoundrel, you'll be unlucky for life. At that moment, I pretended to be in pain and said, Jiangqing. At that time Jiang Group was almost bankrupt due to poor management. It was I who accompanied you to social events and ended up with a stomach hemorrhage, which helped secure the sponsorship and funding. Su Huan, those are past things. If the feelings are gone, they're gone. You can keep my body but not my heart. Why bother? Jiangqing tried to console me. I think Jiang Group should have a part of me, I said directly. Jiangqing was stunned for a moment. He probably didn't expect that I wanted Jiang Group, not him. I want 50% of the original shares of Jiang Group in your hands, not cash compensation. What do you want the shares for? Jiangqing was surprised. To reminisce, I said coldly. Jiangqing hesitated a bit. For him, shares are naturally more important. He wants absolute control of the group. If he gives me 50%, he won't be the largest shareholder anymore. Okay, Jiangqing agreed immediately. He must think that even if I have shares, I can't really get involved in company decisions. I also want the cash value. I continued to make my demands. Su Huan, don't be greedy. Jiangqing clearly didn't want to. That's all I have, and you, have a great love. Jiangqing looked at my bloodshot eyes and trembling body, and said through his pain. Okay, I'll give it to you, but Su Huan, don't bother me anymore in the future. A deal is a deal. 4. Jiangqing quickly had his lawyer redraft a divorce agreement, which I signed readily. I got into his car and went to the civil affairs office. As I opened the passenger side door, I saw a few big characters stuck on it. This princess's seat, everyone else step aside. It was obviously not me who put them there. Jiangqing also noticed it and explained, that girl is just being playful. It's okay, I'll sit in the back. The whole trip was quiet. Jiangqing suddenly asked me, why aren't you talking? I'm reading the WeChat message that Hu Wenqiu sent me. He just got off the plane and is bombarding me with messages. Safe landing. I miss you. Do you miss me? Every second away from you is torment. Wait for me to come back and transfer it properly. Okay, what's so good about Jiangqing? That rotten cucumber. He's not as handsome as me, not as rich, not as young, and not as physically fit. Su Huan, Jiangqing's voice was a bit loud. I frowned and said, what's wrong? Who are you talking to? Can't you hear me speaking? Do you have something to say? I was surprised. After the divorce, if you have any difficulties, you can come to me. After all, we were married, and I'm not that heartless. Jiangqing said impatiently again. Okay, I nodded and agreed. The car fell into silence again. Jiangqing couldn't help but say again. Don't you have anything to say to me? Then I wish you and her a long and lasting relationship. I said, you don't need to pretend in front of me. Jiangqing said generously, no pretense, a prostitute with a dog, a long and lasting relationship. Jiangqing suddenly said kindly, Su Huan, you should go out and see the outside world more. Your life is too narrow. Haven't you noticed you don't have many friends? If you do this, after we get divorced, will you be able to find another partner? I laughed and said, after we're divorced, my matters don't need your concern. I'm worried about you being alone, no one to take care of you. For so many years, haven't I always been alone? I said sarcastically. Jiangqing naturally understood my sarcasm. He paused for a moment and said, what I mean is, I have many friends. Should I introduce you to some? Sure, why not? I said generously. Jiangqing was somewhat stunned, then said, okay, I'll introduce you to someone good later. After arriving at the civil affairs office, we quickly processed the divorce registration. When leaving, Jiangqing said he would send me, but couldn't resist his little canary's urging, and left in a hurry. I looked up at the blue sky and white clouds, finally feeling what it means to be like reborn. After more than 20 years of relationship, it really vanished in an instant. 5. I didn't tell Hu Wenqiu that I had registered for divorce with Jiangqing. I can't explain why, or maybe I never really thought about giving Hu Wenqiu a status. We can play around, but that's it. I won't make the same mistake again. But Jiangqing's little canary is already eager to take action. She posted on her social media on the 5th day after we registered our divorce, declaring her ownership. We became WeChat friends back then, and it was the canary who initiated it. I initially refused, but I couldn't resist her persistence. One day, I accidentally accepted it. Her caption was, choose one Qing to spend the rest of your life with, meet one person to grow old with. The photo below is a picture of her and Jiangqing holding hands, both wearing the same pair of matching rings. Coincidentally that day, I and Jiangqing's mutual friend had a birthday, and we both went. Jiangqing brought the little canary with him. Before I arrived, I heard a group of people laughing and talking in the private room. When are the two of you going to have a wedding, by the way? Did Su Huan really agree to the divorce? I thought she was really crazy about you, always revolving around you. How did you manage to persuade Su Huan not to cling to you? Teach us, buddy. Jiangqing had not yet spoken. I answered confidently, equal property distribution. A group of people looked at me appearing, and they were somewhat embarrassed. The friends celebrating the birthday quickly diffused the situation. Inviting everyone to the table, I was quite at ease. The little goldfinch kept looking at me, her eyes were full of provocation. Finally, she could not hold back any longer and stood up. Madame Su, Jiangqing has suffered a lot to divorce you. I don't mind that, but I just hope you won't bother Jiangqing anymore. I'll drink first. After saying that, she drank the glass of wine in her hand. I didn't respond. The little canary looked a bit unhappy. Su Jia, you and Jiangqing are divorced. Does that mean you still have feelings for him? Enough. Jiangqing called to the canary, let's talk about this privately. No, I want her to promise in front of everyone that she won't bother us anymore. The canary pouted, I want you to be completely mine. Her voice was soft and gentle. Jiangqing was really into that. He sighed, Su Huan, just give Shuer a promise so she can be at peace. I glanced at Jiangqing. I had already forgotten, but suddenly remembered that once, when he was drunk, he knelt on the ground and said he would love me for a lifetime, saying that if I wanted stars from the sky, he would pick them down for me. This situation was really jarring. I smiled faintly. Don't worry, I don't take in trash. Jiangqing's face, which had been smiling, suddenly turned cold. The canary's face wasn't much better either. I continued, correct you, Jiangqing and I are getting a divorce. It's not that he suffered heavy losses, it's all something I deserve, also. The money Jiangqing spent on you, half of it was mine. I didn't ask you to pay it back, was my kindness to you. You should be grateful instead of pushing further. You, the canary turned red in the face from my words. Jiangqing took her side. Su Huan, even if you aren't willing to accept that I no longer love you, there's no need to make the girl embarrassed. There's no resentment. Don't be stubborn. I know you've never been able to accept the fact that I don't love you anymore. The door suddenly opened. A familiar voice said, sorry, I'm late. 6. Seeing Hua Wenxiu at this moment, I was a bit surprised. Isn't it said that this business trip would take about 10 days? It's only been a few days. Others were also drawn to his arrival. The host was exceptionally enthusiastic. Mr. Hua's visit is truly an honor for me. Please sit here. Saying that, he tried to let Hua Wenxiu sit in the main seat. Everyone also showed respect to Hua Wenxiu. In this circle, Hua Wenxiu is considered a higher-level second-generation rich person than them. Naturally, they had to flatter him. No need to be polite. I can just sit here. Hua Wenxiu directly went to my side. I didn't even dare to look at him directly, afraid he might do something outrageous. Yes, yes. The host quickly beckoned the server to add another seat. I instinctively moved to the side. The chair was pulled by Hua Wenxiu. I turned back to look at him. Looking at him, he was smiling with a look of self-satisfaction. Even in the next moment, his improper foot had already slipped between my legs. I tensed up and squeezed my legs tightly. This not only failed to make Hua Wenxiu leave me, but also forced him closer. Mr. Hua, I'll drink to you. Jiangqing suddenly came over. My heart is racing. It's like I'm caught in an affair. Look, even after a year, I still can't accept this calmly, but Jiangqing can. Fortunately, it's already the divorce cooling off period. I gradually relaxed. Hua Wenxiu looked at Jiangqing and said, I don't drink alcohol. I was impolite. Jiangqing didn't feel embarrassed and said calmly, then Mr. Hua can just drink water. I'll have the alcohol, after a day on the plane. I just want to eat something quietly. Hua Wenxiu didn't give Jiangqing any face at all. Even Jiangqing, who had thick skin, felt a bit embarrassed. He laughed nervously. I'm sorry for disturbing Master Hua. I'll punish myself by drinking a cup. Master Hua, please enjoy your meal. Jiangqing left. Others also wanted to come and toast, but because of Hua Wenxiu's attitude, they chose to watch and wait. The host felt the atmosphere was a bit off and quickly took the initiative to liven it up. Everyone didn't restrain anymore and were drinking wine with each other. The gathering returned to normal. The canary couldn't help but speak again. Madame Su, just now when we drank together, you still haven't given me a direct answer. I was a bit speechless. Dealing with Hua Wenxiu was already exhausting enough. Let Hua Deshao be here to witness it, Jin Kuei said firmly, as if she wouldn't let go unless she got an explanation. What kind of witness? Hua Wenxiu said with interest. The foot under the table was also not staying still. Seeing that Hua Wenxiu was paying attention to her, Jin Kuei became even more energetic. She quickly said, as everyone knows, Jiangqing has already registered for divorce with Su Huan. To part amicably, Jiangqing gave her most of his assets, but Su Huan still won't let go of Jiangqing. I saw Hua Wenqiu's expression getting worse as he listened. Jing Kuei became even more excited as she spoke. Today so many friends are here. And Hua Deshao is also here. I just want Su Huan to give me a promise that she will never bother Jiangqing again. After all, we have already paid the price for it, and she can't be so shameless. 7. I really couldn't help but laugh. How could she be so shameless to say, shameless? I was about to speak up. Hua Wenqiu spoke up first. If I'm not mistaken, you were the mistress. Canaries was taken aback, blushing as she said, Su Huan and Jiangqing are already divorced. And now I am Jiangqing's legitimate fiancé. Jiangqing has already proposed to me, saying that. She also showed off the ring on her hand. Don't tell me they are only registered divorced, not officially divorced yet. Even if they are divorced, you were seducing a married man. Hua Wenqiu mocked. Do you think you're a mistress with a sense of superiority? The one who is not loved is the mistress, Canary said firmly. Jiangqing and I are in love. And Jiangqing no longer loves Su Huan. She is the mistress in this relationship. Did you skip 9 years of compulsory education? Hua Wenqiu laughed coldly. Does no one teach you how to feel ashamed? Why don't you be a decent person and instead choose to be a dog that eats feces? Not only are you despicable, but you're also shameless. She is the officially married wife, while you are just and you're not even good at being a chicken. I was directly stunned by what I heard. Is there a possibility that you're also yourself? Canaries was speechless, her eyes red, and she cried, how could you say that about me? As a mistress, you should have the self-discipline of a mistress. Hua Wenqiu didn't even pay attention to Canaries, and kept ranting. You should listen when someone scolds you, endure when someone exposes you in public, and lower your head in front of the law. Look at you now. You not only failed to manage your hidden identity, but you also act like a clown in broad daylight. You're not actively taking off your clothes for people to see. Oh, almost forgot. The mistress is really good at taking off her clothes. Is that what you're saying about yourself? This person can be really harsh, even to themselves. I was speechless. The canary was actually made to cry. Jiangqing was visibly angry next to him, but held back due to Hua Wenqiu's face. The canary cried even more, looking pitiful. Jiangqing. They're all bullying me. I don't want to live anymore. I just love you. What's wrong with that? Jiangqing couldn't hold back anymore and said, Mr. Hua, my family matters don't need your lecture. This isn't her who asked me to witness it. Hua Wenqiu said matter-of-factly, I just spoke the truth, and you all got defensive. How can you be a mistress if you can't even handle a little emotional pressure? Besides, who said this is just your family matter? Hua Wenqiu hadn't finished speaking yet. I suddenly shouted. Everyone looked at me in surprise. I accidentally bit my tongue. I made up an excuse, of course, to stop Hua Wenqiu from speaking recklessly. I'm going to the restroom. 8. I got up and left. I also expected Hua Wenqiu to follow me. Sure enough, as soon as I left the private room and entered the restroom, I hadn't even had time to lock the door when Hua Wenqiu squeezed in. The next moment, I was tightly pressed against the wall and couldn't move. Open your mouth and let me see. Hua Wenqiu lowered his body, his hot breath brushing against my face. I could feel his obvious restlessness even through his clothes. I shook my head violently. Be good, don't make me do something indecent. Hua Wenqiu's sexy lips were almost touching mine. What are you going to do? My body shivered. I thought he was going to force a kiss on me. But I didn't expect him to take my hand and put it inside his clothes, then keep moving it down. Hua Wenqiu never forces me, but he can still make me comply willingly. I only truly understood Jiangqing's happiness this past year. Wild flowers are more fragrant than cultivated ones. Quite a lot. Why didn't you tell me you've registered for divorce with Jiangqing? Hua Wenqiu's voice was hoarse, his teeth nipping at my ear. Is that why you came back so many days early? Did you plan to give me a surprise? Hua Wenqiu obviously knew. His eyes were bright. That's not exactly it. Just don't want to take responsibility. Why did you stop me from speaking? Hua Wenqiu obviously knew I was lying. Aren't you the one who said that a mistress should have self-discipline? I was a bit out of breath. Your current status is a bit hard to be seen in the open. So when are you going to make me official? Hua Wenqiu's voice rose at the end, extremely seductive, so I couldn't resist. I leaned down and kissed Hua Wenqiu. Hua Wenqiu couldn't take it anymore, and immediately forgot about the recent incident. Of course, we didn't actually do anything here, but when we left, my lips were bitten and broken. I also accidentally met Jiangqing in the corridor outside. It looked like he was waiting for me on purpose. Su Huan, have you had enough? Jiangqing coldly asked me. I laughed in anger. Jiangqing, do you understand who was causing trouble tonight? Why bother with a little girl? How old are you? How old is she? Is it worth it? It's not worth it, I nodded. Then go apologize to Schwer, I muttered. Why should I quarrel with a chicken? So I didn't say a word tonight. Su Huan, you've gone too far. Jiangqing's face suddenly changed. You being like this will only make me hate you more. Does it matter if I like or dislike you? I was a bit confused. Divorced. Then we are unrelated. Who still cares about the other person's feelings? You don't need to be stubborn. I clearly know your feelings for me. If you just apologize to Schwer tonight, I can agree to our divorce but not living apart. 9. I was stunned, unable to believe what I had just heard. Jiangqing could actually say such shameless words. That's why the elders always say, not a family member. Not entering the same family door, Jiangqing and Qin Schwer, really a perfect match. You don't need to be too happy. Whatever I give Schwer, I won't give less to you. Even if I don't have feelings for you, I will take responsibility for you all the way, Jiangqing said firmly. I couldn't say a word for a long time. I first realized that although I have known Jiangqing for over 20 years, I seem to not know him at all. Jiangqing, how do you think I would give up being a proper wife to become a mistress? How bad do I have to be? I asked him with a laugh. I tried to keep my voice calm. I must give Schwer a proper status. You can only be, Jiangqing said with a determined attitude. Why should I myself? Su Huan, know when to stop. To be precise, why must I revolve around you, Jiangqing? If I can't be your wife, then I have to be your mistress. Are you a RMB? Do I have no choice but to be yours? Or is it that all men in the world are dead? I am trying to part amicably, and at most, I don't want to make things too awkward with Jiangqing over the property, but some people really have no sense of boundaries. Jiangqing was so angry his face turned red. Su Huan, you'd better not regret what you said today. I won't regret it. I didn't hesitate at all, and added, also, don't forget, 25 days later, we'll go to the Civil Affairs office to get our divorce certificate. I will never forget. Don't try to play tricks, Jiangqing said through gritted teeth. Okay, I left a sentence and walked away. I had taken 2 steps when I saw Qin Schwer rushing to find Jiangqing. When she saw me, she immediately exploded. Su Huan, you were alone with Jiangqing. What did you two do? Why is your lip broken? Did Jiangqing bite you? I pressed my lips, and then remembered that my lip had been bitten by Hu Wenqiu just now. I felt a bit angry. It was clearly intentional. Afraid that others wouldn't know I have someone outside, I said angrily, a dog bit me. Are you calling Jiangqing a dog? Qin Schwer was about to faint from anger. Jiangqing quickly explained, it's not me. I never touched Su Huan. She bit her lip on purpose to frame me. After so many years, I'm already fed up with her. Saying that, he shouted at me again, Su Huan, you spoke so confidently just now. And now you're trying to break up my relationship with Schwer. Don't you think your behavior is despicable? I could no longer control my inner fury and was about to lose my temper. Hu Wenqiu walked out of the restroom in a relaxed manner. Mr. Jiang, your face is really big, isn't it? Is the whole world only a dog? Hu Wenqiu walked up to me, lifted my chin, and kissed my lips in front of Jiangqing and Qin Schwer. At this moment, my heart finally sank. 10. After a deep kiss, Jiangqing and Qin Schwer were both stunned. Hu Wenqiu hugged me and said, looked clearly, I bit it, you dog, you're even proud of it. I saw Jiangqing's eyes go from shock to disbelief to anger to, unable to accept. He said, Su Huan, is it true? If you don't have bad eyes, you can see it clearly. Up to now, I could only accept it. When Hu Wenqiu heard me say that, his lips couldn't help but curve upward. If there was really a dog tail, it would have already been wagging in the sky. Su Huan, you. Jiangqing had the words on his lips but swallowed them back. It was probably too sudden, and he couldn't organize his words for a moment. I didn't need to explain too much to him. He was a veteran, and could understand. I pulled Hu Wenqiu away. As I left, I suddenly turned back and looked at Qin Schwer. Qin Schwer felt my gaze and immediately straightened her posture. At that moment, I inexplicably felt a bit guilty. We were both mistresses. Why could Qin Schwer be so confident and justified, while Hu Wenqiu had to be so suppressed? Thought for a moment. Hu Wenqiu was indeed a man with self-cultivation who was an adulterer. What are you looking at? Qin Schwer said angrily when I didn't say anything. You can be proud of your youth, but Jiangqing can't, I said with a smile. After all, they're things I've grown tired of, and you're just starting to get addicted to them. This time, I pulled Hu Wenqiu and left without looking back. I heard Qin Schwer's sharp cry behind me. What's Su Huan so proud of? She's a middle-aged woman who can't even keep her own husband. What right does she have to be so arrogant? Jiangqing, you must take my side and get me even for this humiliation. I've been with you honestly. I'm not here to be humiliated. Honestly, how ironic. Neither I nor Hu Wenxiu went back to the birthday party. We just left by car. In the car, Hu Wenxiu cautiously asked me, "Are you angry?" No. I know Hu Wenxiu was just trying to help me take revenge. Besides, since it's already done, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Can I pay you back with meat? He asked me pitifully. My current state was clearly a bit heavy-hearted. I'm not really angry at him. I was thinking, how could I not be responsible for him? I turned back and met his close-up handsome face. Then looked down at his chest, which was exposed with all his shirt buttons undone. The words no were on my lips, but I just couldn't say them. A man really affects my ability to draw my sword. I still ended up being lured to the hotel. Despite my better judgment, the next day, I came back home with a sore back, and Jiangqing was there. A person who hasn't returned in 800 years is now sitting in the living room. "Where did you go last night?" Jiangqing asked me. With an air of coming to demand an explanation, I didn't respond to him and walked directly to the bedroom. "Su Huan, even if you use this method, you won't be able to make me change my mind. Don't have unrealistic expectations," Jiangqing coldly reminded. So up to now, Jiangqing still thinks I can't let go of him. I stopped and laughed lightly. "Then why did you come back today?" 11. Jiangqing spoke resolutely. "We were husband and wife. I don't want you to degrade yourself. People like you who haven't seen much of the world are too easy to be deceived by men. I know men's psychology well. Jiang Wenxiu and you are just playing around. There's absolutely no future between you two." I stared straight at Jiangqing. "You and Qin Shuer's relationship is pretty good, isn't it? Can you compare to Shuer?" Jiangqing was very excited. "Shuer is young and beautiful, pure in body and mind. But what about you? You're almost 30. And you've been married before. Which man would want a second-hand item, especially Zhang's family's prince, who is even 5 years younger than you? You're just begging for humiliation. So in your opinion, I'll never have a man want me again, and you still want to divorce me, ruining my whole life." I laughed coldly. I said, "We can get divorced but still live under the same roof. Although we no longer have a marital relationship, I can take care of you for the rest of your life. Just don't degrade yourself like this anymore." I really felt disgusted. I said, "Jiangqing, who do you think you are to forgive me? You've been with Qin Shuer and so many women like her, and you have no right to hold me accountable. Am I a second-hand item? Then what are you? A trash? I'm a man and a woman can't be the same." Jiangqing was furious. "It seems that the ones who slipped through 9 years of compulsory education are not only Qin Shuer, but also you. You don't need to lecture me with all this philosophy, Su Huan. At the end of the day, this society is like this. Men and women are born with different social status. What's the use of your higher education? It's just to marry better." I have to admit, at this moment, I was really speechless by Jiangqing. Maybe, if I say another word to him now, I would feel offended. I began to examine him, and also examine myself. Maybe I was blind back then, or maybe a person really can change into something so disgusting. Jiangqing said, "I don't need to say more, Su Huan. When you get beaten by society, you will know what it means to not listen to the elders." After saying that, Jiangqing left. As he left, he added another reminder, "Don't forget the day to get the divorce certificate." I took a deep breath. I was almost angry by Jiangqing. Where did he get the confidence from, as a man? Did he really become so proud? Fortunately, finally, I realized it. And it's about to be completely cleared up. 12. The day I went to the civil affairs office to get the divorce certificate, I arrived early. Jiangqing didn't waste any time. We quickly got our divorce certificate. This means that 50% of Jiangqing's shares and the cash all went into my account. Finally, I felt relieved. It's not that I'm afraid Jiangqing won't divorce me. I just worry that he might be reluctant to give me so much, and I don't want to waste any more time arguing with him. "Su Huan, are you sure?" As we left the civil affairs office, Jiangqing suddenly asked me, "What?" I was confused. "Divorce but not leaving home." I let out a laugh. Jiangqing said, "The premise is that you can't be involved with other men anymore." Jiangqing, where do you get the confidence to think that after being treated like this, I can still follow you without hesitation? What's so special about you that I can't stop thinking about you? Is it because you have a rotten cucumber in your pants instead of me? Speak to me with respect. Jiangqing was furious. Respect is mutual. Have you ever respected me? Besides, why should I be polite to a low-class, disgusting, and dirty scumbag? Isn't that punishing myself? Honestly, this moment, I really feel relieved. After holding back for so long, I can finally vent my emotions without any reservations. Jiangqing stared at me fiercely. Unable to believe that I would insult him so openly, I said, Jiangqing, you previously said I had higher education. What's the use of it? Now I officially tell you, after receiving higher education, I can filter out people like you from my life. I can also minimize my own losses when I'm hurt. I can even make you understand that women are never the property of men. You really haven't experienced the hardships of society, Jiangqing sneered. Then, so be it. Goodbye. In the world of the martial heroes, I left with a carefree attitude, without paying any attention to the furious light behind me. I felt, for the first time, an unprecedented sense of ease and satisfaction, which reached its peak at this moment. After the divorce, I took my shares, equal to Jiangqing's, and entered Zhang's group. It wasn't hard to enter Zhang's group. At that time, Zhang's group had a crisis, and my marriage to Jiangqing had only lasted 2 years. I invested all the inheritance left to me by my parents to save Zhang's group, and I also accompanied Jiangqing in seeking investments everywhere. The people of Zhang's group were not unaware of my abilities. If it hadn't been for me accompanying Jiangqing step by step through those years, Zhang's group would have already been gone. Jiangqing was appointed as the chairman by the board of directors after that crisis, taking over his father's position. At the same time, Jiangqing returned double the money I had invested in Zhang's. I have withdrawn from the scene, because Jiangqing said, Huan, I don't want you to be too tired. I can support the family and also support you. Sure enough, a man can be relied on, a pig can climb a tree. Well, it's also good, a fall into a pit, a gain in your wit. 13. I entered the Zhang's management, which Jiangqing naturally could not agree to, but because he was no longer the largest shareholder, he no longer had absolute authority. Plus, over these 2 years, Jiangqing spent a lot of time on women, and his neglect of the group has caused many directors to be dissatisfied. Now, he even gave up his shares for a woman, and the shareholders no longer trusted him. Letting me join the group, in a way, was also a lesson given to Jiangqing by the board of directors. And all of these were part of my plan. Even so, Qin Shuer not allowing Jiangqing to come to the company because I am there was also within my expectations. Qin Shuer's youth is her asset, but her ignorance will make her pay a price. The board of directors is becoming increasingly dissatisfied with Jiangqing's long absence from the company. My work ability has made the board of directors increasingly trust me. This went on for half a year. After approving the last plan, I met Hu Wenxiu at the office door when I left work in the evening. The secretary was a bit nervous, because he is the eldest son of Hu Group. We have a cooperation with Hu Group, so we dare not stop him, and Hu young master also doesn't let us disturb you. I nodded, indicating that I understood. Come in. I led Hu Wenxiu into my office. I knew there would come a day like this. I can't just send him a WeChat message saying break up, block him, and then confess to his parents about our improper relationship and be done with it. Hu Wenxiu may be a love-struck guy, but he's not someone who can be easily bullied. The title prince isn't given to him for nothing. Have you missed me? Hu Wenxiu asked with red eyes. I didn't dare to meet his gaze. I was afraid that if I made one mistake, he would kill me. I just lowered my head and answered, if I say I haven't, will you get angry? I will, very honest, sorry. Am I just a tool for you to take revenge on your ex-husband? I shook my head and said seriously, still a tool in bed. Hu Wenxiu stared at me. I wondered if he was about to explode with anger. Then he left with his face turned away. At most, he gave me a slap before leaving, but the next moment, I heard him say, then why not keep using me? I'm very useful. You are indeed very useful, but I'm afraid I'll get addicted. I felt a bit guilty in my heart. I've seen Hu Wenxiu's behavior in front of others, and it's definitely not this pitiful dog-like appearance. Su Huan, let's get married. Hu Wenxiu suddenly proposed to me. I was shocked. What are you thinking? I haven't even considered getting married again, and do you think your family will accept it? They have accepted it. I was speechless. Wait, how could the Hu family accept a woman who has been married before? When I went to see Hu Wenxiu's parents before, they didn't give me a single good look. I know you don't believe in marriage anymore because of a scumbag, but I'm young, and I'm sure I'll die after you. I can wait forever. I appreciate you dying after me. Hu Wenxiu's eyes were firm. Whenever you want to get married, we can. If you never want to, I'll stay with you forever, brother. Being love-struck will really make you unhappy. 14. I ran away from Hu Wenxiu in fear. Hu Wenxiu didn't chase me, he just shouted behind me, Su Huan. I will only have you in this life. Went back home, my mood had not yet calmed down, and I saw Jiangqing again. Did I offend the god of the year today? Everything is inauspicious. Huan, I want to talk to you. Jiangqing looked at me, his eyes filled with exhaustion. What do you want to talk about? Can I come in? No. Jiangqing sighed and said, I'm tired. You're tired, so you came to me. I sneered. Shouldn't you be asking Schwer to give you a full body massage? You know what I'm talking about. Yes, I certainly do. Jiangqing and Qin Schwer have not had a peaceful 6 months. It is said that the two of them have not actually married. Qin Schwer's possessiveness toward Jiangqing has almost reached a pathological level. Even if Jiangqing's secretary reports work to him, she will get jealous and throw a tantrum. She also checks Jiangqing's phone every day, afraid that Jiangqing might have taken an interest in some woman. Even if Jiangqing likes a woman's post on social media, she would go to that woman's door and call her a fox spirit and a shameless woman. Jiangqing could still be patient and persuade at the beginning, but as time went on, Qin Schwer's behavior really affected his normal life, and he became impatient. Jiangqing's impatience further triggered Qin Schwer's nerves, making her more suspicious that Jiangqing no longer loved her. She would often threaten to commit suicide, and once, when Jiangqing came home late due to an engagement, Qin Schwer cut her wrist. Although she didn't die, it really scared Jiangqing. It also alarmed Qin Schwer's family. Her family was also very aggressive towards Jiangqing, saying that Qin Schwer, a pure and innocent girl, was following him, a divorced man, and if he dared to be bad to Qin Schwer, they would not let him go. Jiangqing was worried every day that Qin Schwer would cause trouble. And he was always afraid that her family would come to cause trouble. And he was in a state of nervous exhaustion every day. Not tired, that's impossible. But isn't this all his own fault? Isn't it just because he was so infatuated with the vitality of a young girl? Let's get back together. Jiangqing took a deep breath, as if he had made a big decision before speaking. So, is today a good day for marriage? I will take care of my relationship with Qin Schwer. And it won't cause any trouble for our marriage. Jiangqing, you really are despicable. I cut him off. Jiangqing's eyes narrowed. You must have heard some rumors, right? You'll be removed from your position at tomorrow's board meeting. I directly exposed his scheming. Jiangqing didn't deny it, and explained, it's not related to this. I really want to start over with you. Do you think I'll believe you? Although we divorced, I never married Qin Schwer. I kept our feelings alive. Whether you believe it or not, after we divorced, I truly realized that the person I loved was you. I don't believe you. I admit that I divorced you back then. It was my mistake, my foolishness. Qin Schwer has been pure and loyal to me. As a man, I should give her an explanation. Jiangqing, I really didn't want to hear his nonsense. Who isn't clean and pure? My first time. Did I really give it to a dog? 15. Jiangqing was speechless. Stop pretending. I don't even believe the punctuation of what you're saying now. I turned around to go home. Jiangqing grabbed me. Su Huan, let me say I was wrong before. I have been regretting it since the day we divorced. I still can't understand how we ended up like this. You've thought it through very clearly. I cut straight to the point. You know very well the cost of your mistakes. You thought I could tolerate all those women you had outside. And I would also accept you remarrying after divorcing me. You assumed that since my parents died in an accident, my whole world was only you, so you gave me money and shares. Anyway, as long as you want, you can take them back anytime. But Qingyue really gave you a different kind of happiness. You play with the little girl, and if it goes well, you keep playing with her. If it doesn't, you just discard her. But now you suddenly realize that you've lost control of both sides. And you're getting nervous and scared, so you're desperate to go back to the way things were. But Jiangqing, don't be so self-centered. You're not so excellent that all the women in the world have to revolve around you. Jiangqing wanted to argue back. I interrupted him again. Don't talk about a woman's chastity. The new China has been established for 75 years. Patriarchy is just the self-righteousness of men. A self-deceiving excuse. But you weren't with Hu Wenxiu, were you? Jiangqing shouted. I checked. It was you who approached the Hu family and broke things off with Hu Wenxiu on your own. Does that mean I can't forget you? And I love you, I said, laughing in disbelief. Isn't that the case? Is there a possibility that I know there's no future between me and Hu Wenxiu, so I don't want to hold you back? After all, I've already wasted my best years on a dead end, and I can't learn a lesson from it. Jiangqing looked at me, speechless. I didn't have any interest in him either. When I was about to leave again, a familiar voice came from behind me. I knew it. You cut me off abruptly not because you don't love me, but because you're afraid my family wouldn't approve. I turned around and looked at Hu Wenxiu. Why are you here? After you left, I missed you, so I came to see you, Hu Wenxiu said honestly, staring directly at me. Don't you miss me? Everyone could understand how ambiguous that word miss was. Hu Wenxiu didn't even wait for my answer. He walked straight up to me and kissed me without a second's delay. That is to say, you can't see the big person right next to you. He kissed me for a long time, then turned to Jiangqing and said, how long are you going to watch? Don't you have any sense of propriety? If you keep watching the next scene, it will be illegal. Jiangqing, with red eyes, bit his teeth and left. As soon as he left, Hu Wenxiu couldn't hold back anymore. I rejected his affection. Hu Wenxiu, I didn't agree to get back together with you, Su Huan. The reason I said it was due to your family situation was just an excuse to refuse that scumbag. This past 6 months, I've been about to go crazy. Hu Wenxiu pulled my hand into his pocket. It needs you to comfort it properly. You didn't even listen to a single word I said, but I didn't hold out for long either. Who said I didn't suffer for these 6 months? 16. Through the unanimous decision of the board of directors, I obtained absolute management rights of Jiang Group. I also sidelined all the Jiang family members in the process. The board meeting ended. Jiangqing came to my office. He said, Huan, give me another chance. You're wasting our time. Did you know how painful it was for me to see you with Hu Wenxiu last night? I don't know, and it's none of my business. I couldn't sleep all night. I looked at him, so I'll grant you a leave. Go back and rest well, Su Huan. I really regret it, and I have realized who the person I truly love is. Don't make a fool of yourself, I said slowly and clearly. Jiangqing bit his lip. This is the leave form. I placed it in front of him. Fill in how long you want to take, then go to the Human Resources Department. Jiangqing looked at me, with a strange look, just like how I used to look at him, strangely. Even I doubted he was possessed by a demon. Jiangqing left in a wobbly manner. But after that, Jiangqing kept coming back to me to get back together, apologizing. I couldn't stand his persistence anymore, so I removed him from his position in the group through the board of directors, and he could only get dividends from now on. I also didn't allow the security guards to let him enter the Jiang Group building. Finally, he stopped. Not long after, I heard that Jiangqing was imprisoned. The reason was that he accidentally killed Qin Shuer. Qin Shuer couldn't accept Jiangqing breaking up with her. In the midst of a heated argument and struggle between two people, Jiangqing finally couldn't hold back and used the fruit knife on the coffee table to end Qin Shuer's life. Before his execution, Jiangqing asked to see me once. I went. The Jiangqing in front of me had completely lost his former glory, worn out, hollow, a living corpse. He probably never thought that just playing around with women would cost him his whole life. How could he have thrown his whole life away over this? He said, Su Huan, I don't regret killing Qin Shuer. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have ended up like this. So, she deserved to die. Jiangqing, why are you still deceiving yourself? I laughed at him. The real culprit between us has always been you. If it weren't for Qin Shuer, I wouldn't have divorced you, and you would have always been my wife. It's bound to happen. If you don't bring it up, I will. Why? Jiangqing looked at me with teary eyes. Aren't you in love with me, Su Huan? Aren't you the one who has always loved me the most? Do you think saying love is appropriate now? Jiangqing was overwhelmed with tears. He looked at me and remained silent for a long time. It seemed he had calmed down. He asked me, Su Huan, when did you start not loving me? After you started being with Hu Wenxiu? No, I said directly. It started when I had the child in my belly. We had a child. When you first cheated on me, why didn't you tell me? Do you know? But you forgave me. You clearly forgave me that time. Jiangqing didn't believe. I didn't believe that time, so I didn't love him anymore. He said, if you hadn't forgiven me, why didn't you ask for a divorce back then? Because I needed to weigh the pros and cons. I couldn't let you get away with it so easily. I confessed. No, you're lying to me. If you didn't love me anymore back then, why didn't you leave me earlier? You must be lying, right? Jiangqing could never accept it. His long-cherished image of a happy marriage turned out to be a ruin. 17. I calmly told him, Jiangqing, I didn't ask for a divorce back then because I was clear that even if I divorced you, I wouldn't be able to quickly fall in love with someone else. For me, not divorcing you didn't hinder my life. Besides, would you have agreed to a divorce back then? You were just curious about the outside world, not really in love. Even if I pushed you hard, you might have agreed, but I wouldn't have gotten the property I wanted. You could have manipulated it, and I would have lost more than I gained. So, during our marriage, I collected evidence of your infidelity, checked your assets, transferred my own wealth, and even laid the groundwork for my future. It wasn't until this year that everything was settled. By the way, why did I commit infidelity last year? Because I'm not like you. I don't have such shameless courage. I needed a long period of psychological preparation to take this shameful step. It wasn't revenge, just a physical need. I watched Jiangqing, looking at his unrestrained pain. He said, "So this year I won't mention divorce. You will, right?" "Yes." At that time, you already knew everything about the property division in the divorce agreement, so you knew I was serious about divorcing. And then you added more conditions to me. Yes, on the day we talked about divorce, your red eyes and trembling weren't because you were sad, but because you were too happy. No, Jiangqing's eyes moved slightly. That was because of the whole night of being tortured by Hu Wenxiu. "Su Huan, I'm about to die. Why didn't you lie to me? Why?" Jiangqing became overwhelmed, breaking down and feeling desperate. "Because, you don't deserve it." Jiangqing's tears wouldn't stop falling. "The last time I cried like that was at our wedding." She loved calling Jiangqing in the middle of the night, and she would cry as soon as she called. Life is a cycle. I left without hesitation. At the prison gate, Hu Wenxiu was waiting for me. I found out later that the Hu family agreed to our relationship because Hu Wenxiu stopped being frivolous after being with me. He focused all his energy on making money to support his wife. That time the Hu family treated me badly. It wasn't because they looked down on my status, but because they didn't think Hu Wenxiu was worth it. And that's why they agreed to let me send Hu Wenxiu abroad. It was also part of their plan. They had already planned to send Hu Wenxiu abroad for training. But Hu Wenxiu refused to go no matter what, so they took this opportunity to send Hu Wenxiu abroad to open up the European market. If he succeeded, they would agree to let Hu Wenxiu be with me. Poor Hu Wenxiu, he had been kept in the dark all along, and he was even happy and didn't want to return. I helplessly watched Hu Wenxiu holding such a big bunch of red roses in his hands. This person is really desperate. Even at the prison gate he didn't miss the chance to propose to me. How to say, well, let's give it a try. Infidelity was also approached with a try-it-out attitude, and the experience was perfect. What if marriage is also like that? Anyway, I don't lose anything, because marriage has never been a shackle for women, and women have never been the property of men. What kind of life a woman wants, she can change at any time. It's never too late. Story 2, Xiaoyubai is my so-called elder brother, but in fact, he is my childhood betrothed husband, after my father passed away. My mother was afraid that he would abandon us, mother and daughter. She actually drugged him and locked him in my room. As a result, it accidentally caused him to miss his true love, the woman who was the light of his heart, forever. Later, he locked my mother in the basement like a dog. He forced me to the point where I couldn't even seek death, and I was humiliated by him every night. We will never be separated in this life. Are you satisfied, sister? In a pool of blood, I opened my eyes again. I returned to the moment when he was pressing on me. Ugh, his burning hot body pressed tightly against mine, and dense kisses landed on the side of my neck. The iron chain on my ankle made a ding-dong sound as it collided with the impact of our bodies. Xiaoyubai choked my neck and smiled sinisterly. Xiaoyu, you're going on a hunger strike and attempting suicide, right? For every day you don't eat, I'll have someone torment your mother for one more day. I want to see if your body is tougher. Or your mother, brother. I moved my eyes numbly and suddenly spoke. Xiaoyubai's action stopped abruptly, and his voice became even colder. What did you call me? Whether it was before or now, for more than 20 years, I had never called Xiaoyubai brother, because I had known since I was a child that I would marry him when I grew up, so how could I call him my brother? But today, I wanted to. Brother. I faintly lifted the corners of my lips, and my eyes became more and more empty. It's been 7 years, isn't that enough? From the day Xiaoyubai married me and completely took over the company left by my father, this revenge named hatred had lasted for a full 7 years. At first, I had tried to get a divorce, asked for compensation, and attempted all kinds of suicides, but in the end, I was forced to give up everything, because Xiaoyubai held my mother's life in his hands. If I was more obedient, my mother's life in the basement, which was like that of a dog, would be a little better. So, actually, I didn't mean to go on a hunger strike. I really couldn't eat. It turned out that the late stage of gastric cancer was so painful. Enough. Xiaobai pulled the corners of his lips sinisterly, pinched my chin, and poured porridge into my mouth. Xiaoyu, what you owe me can never be repaid in this life. Weren't you and your mother afraid that I would abandon you? I promise you, we will never be separated in this life. Are you satisfied, sister? I was forced to drink half a bowl of porridge, but then I couldn't help but vomit it out. Xiaoyubai's face became even uglier. He suddenly turned me over and pulled my long hair tightly. You don't want to eat, right? Fine, then let's continue. I was forced to kneel on the bed as he attacked me vengefully. I endured the double pain of physical and psychological tearing, until the bloody smell churning in my stomach could no longer be suppressed. Blood spilled from my mouth and splattered on the pure white bedsheet. Xiaoyubai's panicked voice rang in my ear, and he reached out to wipe the blood spilling from the corner of my mouth, but as a result, the more he wiped, the more blood there was. Xiaoyu, what's wrong with you? My body slumped down feebly. I looked up at the dazzling crystal lamp on the ceiling and smiled as if I had been released. Xiaoyubai, in this life, between you and me, we're even. Let my mother go, too. My head was so dizzy, but my body felt as if it was being pressed down by something very heavy. I frowned and slowly opened my eyes. What came into view was the familiar yet distant ceiling, and I couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Was I still alive? Where had Xiaoyubai taken me? It didn't look like a hospital, nor did it look like the bedroom where he had imprisoned me with iron chains for 7 years. Instead, it was more like the home where we had once lived. Rip dash. My pajamas were torn apart, and a chill came from my chest. A hand with distinct knuckles covered my chest, and my whole body trembled violently. I was so shocked that goosebumps appeared all over my body. My gaze hurriedly shifted downward, but I met a pair of crimson eyes. Xiaoyubai, who was obviously much younger, had blurred eyes and heavy breathing. One hot kiss after another landed on my chest. My mind seemed to be struck by a thunderclap, and I trembled violently. This was so similar to the night when Xiaoyubai was drugged by my mother. I looked around the room, looking at the familiar furnishings. I was almost certain that this was that night, the last time, because of my stomachache. I took the medicine given by my mother and didn't wake up throughout the whole process, so I couldn't prevent the mistake from happening. But this time, God showed mercy, and I woke up. Brother, calm down, look clearly, I'm Xiaoyu, your sister. Xiaoyubai's body froze suddenly. He raised his crimson and blurred eyes, looked at me blankly for a few seconds, and his brows were tightly furrowed. But I obviously underestimated my mother's determination to either succeed or find a way to succeed. She poured nearly half a bottle of high-proof liquor for Xiaoyubai, coupled with the seasonings in the wine. Xiaoyubai couldn't even hold on for 3 seconds in his sober state and was completely defeated. His palm moved down along my waistline step by step, and he eagerly and chaotically grabbed the edge of my panties. 3. Bang. I grabbed the glass bottle filled with wish stars on the bedside table and hit Xiaoyubai's head heavily. The glass shattered, and the paper stars folded by hand scattered all over the bed. Xiaoyubai's body suddenly pressed down on me. Then, he went limp and lost consciousness. I raised my head and gasped for breath. I closed my eyes as if I had survived a disaster. Thank goodness. There was a buzzing sound vibrating under the bed. I pushed Xiaoyubai away and tried to get up to find the source of the vibration. But unexpectedly, when my body was only halfway up, a whirlwind of dizziness swept over my head. The thing my mother mixed into my stomach medicine still took effect after all. I just felt my stomach churning, and a layer of black mist gradually covered my eyes. Before losing consciousness, I remembered what was vibrating. Xiaoyubai's phone. The one who was calling should be the girl he secretly loved in his heart. Wen Xiqing. Oh, Xiqing is here. Are you here to find Yubai? Come on in. The sound of conversation came from outside the room. It seemed that my mother was greeting the guest. I sat up from the bed, holding my stuffy and painful head. It was already bright outside. The chaotic sound of footsteps was approaching my room step by step. Yubai is in Ayu's room. Ah, it's so early. What is he doing in Xiaoyu's room? My consciousness cleared instantly, and my heart skipped a beat. Oh no. 4. Wen Xiqing was our former neighbor. In one military compound, there lived 3 families, the Xia family, the Wen family, and the Ji family. Both Xiaoyubai and Wen Xiqing were the kind of other people's children. The two of them had been bickering, competing, and comparing their grades since childhood. From high school all the way to university, they seemed like sworn enemies who couldn't get along, but in fact, There was just that one layer of window paper left. Everyone knew that the purpose of my father adopting Xiaobai was to raise a son-in-law for himself in advance. So, Xiaobai and Wen Xiqing agreed that on the day of their university graduation, they would confess to my mother. He would repay the kindness of my family for raising him, but he would never repay it by marrying into the family. As a result, Xiaobai was so drunk from the liquor my mother poured for him and was also drugged. He never answered the phone. Wen Xiqing was worried that something had happened to him, so she came to the door in person the next morning. Then, she was deliberately led by my mother and witnessed the surprise of the messy bed. Wen Xiqing was disheartened, went home and accepted the arranged marriage in her family, and married the wrong person. Xiaobai, on the other hand, was entangled with me for 7 years with endless regret and hatred. Suddenly, a muffled groan came from beside my leg. Xiaobai, who was unconscious, moved, then he frowned and sat up, reaching out to touch the back of his head. Sizzle dash, his dazed pupils gradually focused and finally settled on my face. Xiaobai's body stiffened suddenly, and there was a clear tremor in the bottom of his eyes. Xiaoyu, he suddenly pounced over, his hands trembling violently, and he touched my face and my lips randomly. It was as if he was wiping something. His tone was angry, but there was a faint tremble in it. Who allowed you to vomit blood? Why didn't you tell me you were sick? Without my permission, you can't even die. Do you hear me? If you dare to die, I'll torture your mother and make her life worse than death. Each word was like a thunderclap ringing in my ear. My body stiffened suddenly, and my heart couldn't help but tremble. Xiaobai, you were reborn too, right? 5. Before I could finish speaking, the door had already been twisted open. The person outside was about to come in. In a hurry, I didn't care about anything else. I directly kicked Xiaobai off the bed, then I quickly pulled the quilt over to completely cover my naked body. The paper stars scattered all over the bed were shaken off, and many of them fell under the bed. Yubai, are you okay? Wen Xiqing was startled when she entered the room and saw Xiaobai lying on the ground. She quickly came over to help him up, but Xiaobai stared at her as if he were stunned. It took him a long time to shout in disbelief. Xiqing, yeah. Wen Xiqing nodded, a trace of blush crossing her face. I called you last night, but you didn't answer. I was afraid something had happened to you, so I came to take a look. Xiaobai's pupils suddenly shrank. Then he made the same reaction as me. He looked around the whole room in disbelief. Obviously, he was digesting the fact of being reborn, but my mother, who hadn't been reborn, reacted even more strongly than him, seeing that we weren't sleeping together. Her voice rose a few degrees. What's going on? Why aren't you too, Mom? I interrupted her quickly. My brother just brought me stomach medicine, but I accidentally knocked it over. Make me another cup. By the way, ask Auntie to come in and sweep up the fragments. Sigh, it's a pity, my star jar was broken along with it. As I spoke, I raised my eyes to look at Wen Xiqing, who had obviously relaxed, and smiled. Sister Xiqing came to find my brother, right? Yeah. Wen Xiqing nodded and looked at Xiaobai shyly. Xiaobai had completely come to his senses by now. He slowly took a deep breath, looked at her face, and said in a low and hoarse voice, Xiqing, it's been a long time since we last met. 6. Xiaobai and Wen Xiqing went out to talk. Before leaving, he specially insisted on sweeping up the glass fragments in my room, including those handmade stars scattered all over the floor. He did it carefully, not missing a single one. When he went out carrying the garbage bag, he looked back at me and my mother deeply. His eyes were dark and obscure, but in the end, he didn't say anything and slowly closed the door. I didn't care either. I just slumped on the bed and let out a long breath as if I had survived a disaster. I was so scared. Ayo. My mother's face was pale. She sat by my bedside with a despairing expression. Don't you like Yubai? Why didn't you keep him? My eyes couldn't help but tremble slightly. A familiar dull pain emerged in my heart, but there was more relief. But he doesn't like me. You can't force this kind of thing. We can't be too insistent on repaying kindness in an improper way. It's not right to force a sale, right? But my mother covered her face with her hands and sobbed desperately. What if Yubai really marries Wen Xiqing and abandons us? Mother and daughter, what about your father's company? I knew in my heart, my mother was actually afraid not only that the carefully cultivated Xia Yubai would become someone else's son-in-law, she was even more afraid of losing the company that my father had painstakingly established. After all, I didn't have a talent for business. I had been learning to play the piano since I was a child. Xia Yubai was the successor that my father had cultivated with his own hands. But if he didn't marry me, he would eventually be an outsider. What if he had ulterior motives after taking over the company and set traps for us? After all, a son-in-law was more reliable. But Mom, I sat up wrapped in the quilt and hugged my mother. Aren't you afraid that he will hate you if you scheme against my brother like this? What if he marries me, takes over our family's business, and traps us at home to take revenge? At that time, not to mention having a backer, we won't even have the capital to resist, so, the only person you can trust is me. My mother's sobbing stopped. She stared at me for a long time and finally said, "Ew, Mom will definitely find you a good husband's family, find a good son-in-law who can take over your father's company." Me, that's not what I meant, Mom. Well, is there a possibility that, there's no need to forcefully find a son-in-law, and I also have a way to solve this problem. 7, until 10:30 at night, Xiaoyubai still hadn't come back. However, when Siqing updated her moments at a little after 8 o'clock, the accompanying picture was a side profile of Xiaoyubai. The caption was, "You are worth my courage." I silently liked it and left a sincere comment, "Wish my brother and sister-in-law all the best." Then, not long after, the phone rang. The voice in the receiver was cold and magnetic, but concise. "Come out, I'm at your doorstep." I pursed my lips, my emotions were somewhat indescribable, and I softly hummed. I picked up my coat from the bed and put it on, just as I was about to go out. My mother suddenly perked up. "Ayu, is it Ji Wang?" "Yeah," I nodded, and my hand on the doorknob stopped for a few seconds. Ji Wang was the young master of the Ji family among the Xia, Wen, and Ji families, my childhood sweetheart. In the last life, he married Wen Siqing through an arranged marriage, but he was hated and targeted by Xiaoyubai and ended up in a lose-lose situation, a poor wretch. But my mother didn't notice my strangeness at all. Instead, she became excited. "I think Ji Wang is quite good, we know his background well, and his family situation is suitable. Our two families are well matched." Click, the door suddenly opened from the outside and gently bumped into me. Xiaoyubai then opened the door and came in. He carried the chill of early autumn on him. He was also holding 2 packs of stir-fried noodles. It was from the restaurant that my mother and I liked the most. He looked at the coat on me and said in a cold voice, "It's so late. Where are you going?" 8. I paused, unconsciously tightening my fingers. In my previous life, when Siqing and Ji Wang faded out of my world long ago, I don't know if they were happy in their marriage. I only know that after that, Xiaoyubai never took a liking to Ji Wang. Every time he met him, Xiaoyubai was in a very bad mood. When he got home, he would toss me around without saying a word, just going for a walk. I pursed my lips and didn't say who I was going to meet. I just silently walked around Xiaoyubai and opened the door to go out. "Mom." Xiaoyubai changed his shoes and entered the house, putting the stir-fried noodles on the table with a normal expression. "I brought you some late-night snacks." My mother's eyes trembled, and there was a glimmer of wetness in them. "Yubai, last night, Mom was scared." "Mom." Xiaoyubai smiled and interrupted her. "I understand. Please also believe me. I have always remembered the kindness of you adopting me. No matter who I end up marrying, I will never abandon you and Ayu. Let the past be the past." My mother choked and nodded repeatedly. Just as she was about to speak, she heard Xiaoyubai, while opening the disposable chopsticks, casually ask as if by accident, "Ayu went out alone so late. I don't know if she's safe." "Don't worry," my mother smiled. "She's going to meet Ji Wang. With Ji Wang there, nothing will happen." "Yubai, do you think the probability of Ayu and Ji Wang getting together is high?" "I think they're quite a match." Click, the disposable chopsticks in Xiaoyubai's hand broke in half. 9. Under the dim streetlights, a silver Lotus was parked quietly on the side of the road, low-key and steady, just like the person driving the car. The window of the driver's seat was lowered halfway, revealing half of a cold and handsome side face. Seeing me come out, he tilted his head slightly towards the passenger seat indifferently. "Get in the car." I pursed my lips and lowered my eyes, opened the car door and got in. My tense body relaxed inexplicably, and I let out a soft breath. "Going to watch the sunrise?" Ji Wang's deep and magnetic voice rang out in the car. I was stunned for a moment and shook my head. "No." Ji Wang turned his head and glanced at me. "Find a place to drink, have a good cry." I shook my head and sighed. "No need, really. I'm not that sad." "I don't deny that I'm still sad, but I'm also happy." Ji Wang looked at me in surprise, obviously not believing. "You'd better be." I also knew he didn't believe me. After all, he knew how much I liked Xiaoyubai. He knew how single-mindedly I had been waiting to marry him before. "Ji Wang, although this may seem a bit sudden, but I really don't like him anymore. I'm very happy that he's with Wen Xiqing. The fingers Ji Wang was holding the steering wheel was suddenly tightened. He turned his head and looked at me for a long time with dark and deep eyes. Suddenly, he said out of the blue, "The star jar I gave you the day before yesterday, have you opened it?" 10. I suddenly froze, looking a bit embarrassed. I did try to open it, but it shouldn't really count as opening. Ji Wang looked extremely puzzled. He unbuckled his seatbelt and leaned towards me. We were very close. So close that if someone looked from outside the car window, it would seem like we were kissing. Ji Wang stared into my eyes, and his voice was actually a bit nervous. "What do you mean it doesn't count as opening? You didn't give it to someone else, did you?" I let out an "ah" in guilt. "I didn't give it away. It's just," the car door on my side was suddenly pulled open, before I could even react. My arm was suddenly grabbed and I was yanked out of the car door slammed shut. Outside the car, Xia Yubai was wearing a black woolen coat, with a serious and cold expression. The hand that grabbed my arm used a great deal of strength. It seemed as if it was going to crush my bones. There was even a deep anger in the bottom of his eyes, as if he wanted to tear me apart. "Xia Yu, you let him kiss you? You actually agreed to let him kiss you? Did you promise him?" I was stunned. "He didn't kiss me." "What, brother Yubai? Do you look down on me as your brother-in-law?" In the car, Ji Wang sat up straight. His expression was full of provocation. Through the half-lowered car door window, he looked at Xia Yubai faintly. His voice was still indifferent and calm, but every word was like a thorn. "Brother Yubai, you're in a relationship yourself, and you still care about whether your sister is in a relationship. You care so much about Xia Yu. Aren't you afraid your girlfriend will be jealous?" Xia Yubai's brows furrowed tightly, and his tone was unfriendly. "I care about my own sister. It has nothing to do with you." "Ha." Ji Wang hooked his lips and smiled. "Is she really just your sister?" 11. Xia Yubai's fist suddenly clenched tightly. I was startled and quickly reached out to grab his arm. "Brother, let's go home." Ji Wang was fearless because he didn't know the truth, but I knew in my heart. Xia Yubai's attitude clearly showed the resentment from his previous life when Ji Wang stole his wife. If they continued talking like this, it was definitely possible for them to start fighting. Xia Yu, Ji Wang, however, looked deeply at the hand I was using to hold Xia Yubai, and the bottom of his eyes was icy cold. Finally, he rarely swore. "Damn it, I believed your nonsense. What a load of crap about not liking Xia Yubai anymore. Liar." The engine roared, and the car drove away like an arrow leaving the bow. I watched the taillights disappear around the corner and couldn't help but sigh. "Ji Wang, you have no idea how much Xia Yubai hates you. Sister here just saved your life." "So reluctant." Xia Yubai's cold voice sounded beside me. I glanced at him inexplicably. "He didn't steal your beloved this life. Is it necessary to be so tense?" 12. Xia Yubai pursed his lips and quietly stared at me, but he didn't say anything. I couldn't help but sigh. To be honest, from waking up until now, it was only at this moment that I finally had a chance to be alone with Xia Yubai, a chance to talk about the matter of being reborn openly. "It was our fault to ruin your marriage in the previous life. We deserved everything, but my mother and I have atoned for our sins. This life, you date your white moonlight girl well. Let's owe each other nothing and start over separately. How about it?" I spoke sincerely, but Xia Yubai's eyes dimmed inexplicably. On the back of his still, tightly clenched fist, the veins bulged, as if he was suppressing some emotion. I frowned. What, wasn't 7 years in the previous life enough to relieve his anger? Was he still planning to continue taking revenge on me and my mother this life? "Brother," I pursed my lips and, facing the moonlight, looked seriously and earnestly into his eyes. "I wish you and your girlfriend a happy life this life. Let the past be the past." The bottom of Xia Yubai's eyes trembled deeply. After a long silence, his tightly clenched palm lost its strength and loosened. 13. After this day, when Xiqing came to my house more frequently, although I tried to avoid her, we still met several times. Especially this day, I was standing in front of the full-length mirror at the door, putting on lipstick, when Xiqing, dressed in a white dress and carefully groomed, just entered the door. She looked at me with a strange expression. "Ayu, are you going to the movies with us?" "No," I yawned lazily, feeling inexplicable. "Why would I go when you two are on a date?" "I made an appointment with the doctor today to go to the hospital to check my stomach. In my previous life, I finally got gastric cancer. I'm afraid the stomachaches had already started to plant the seeds of trouble from this time. Since I've been reborn, I have to cherish my life well. Wen Xiqing seemed to relax and her face softened a lot. Oh, I see. It was Xiaobai, who was putting on his coat. That suddenly stopped his movements when he heard my words. He raised his eyes to look at me, his eyes deep. We'll take you there. No, necessary. I had just uttered one syllable when I opened my mouth. But Wen Xiqing had already spoken with a look of distress. But Yubai, the hospital and the cinema are in two different directions. We'll be late. How about we go to the cinema another day? Ayu's health is the most important. Don't worry about her. My mother just came out of the kitchen with washed fruits. She has a date today. Ji Wang will come to pick her up later. Xia Yubai's eyebrows twitched slightly. Wen Xiqing also looked at me in surprise, her eyes very bright. Ayu, you're dating Ji Wang. Ah, I nodded a little guiltily. Yes, 14, yes, my foot. I didn't actually make an appointment with Ji Wang. The so-called date was just an excuse to fob off my mother. But I didn't expect that, when I went out. Ji Wang's car was actually parked at the door, maybe because he didn't go to work today. He wasn't wearing his neat suit and shirt. Instead, he was wearing a gray sweatshirt with broken hair falling on his forehead, looking extremely handsome. Why are you here? I got into the passenger seat, looking shocked. Ji Wang raised his eyebrows and threw me a bag of steamed buns, his tone faint. My mother specifically woke me up this morning and told me not to be late for the date with you. Well. It seemed that my mother and Ji Wang's mother had already discussed this in advance. Your mother wants to make us, Ji Wang said calmly, making a statement. I reached out and covered my face, not responding. Ji Wang was a lawyer. He could definitely see through my family's situation at a glance. My father held 52% of the company's shares. After his death, my mother got 27%, I got 15%, and Xia Yubai got 10%, but I'm an idiot in finance, and my mother is a pedantic and dependent person. We simply can't take over the company. Xia Yubai can, but he only has 10% of the equity, and no one will accept him as the leader, unless my mother or I give him our shares. Only then can he become the legitimate largest shareholder. Now that he's with Wen Xiqing, he's bound to be an outsider. Your mother won't take the risk of giving him her shares to support him as the leader anymore. So, the only way out is to find you a reliable son-in-law. Ji Wang's analysis was completely correct. I was speechless and sighed. Don't worry, I have my own way. We don't need to. Okay. These two words suddenly made me stunned. After blinking my eyes twice, I didn't even react. What? 15. Until I came back from the hospital after the examination, I didn't exchange even a single word with Ji Wang. He also didn't speak, allowing the silence to spread in the car, until the car stopped in front of my house and I opened the car door and got out. He suddenly called out to me, also opened the door and got out, and stood in front of me. Xiaoyu. Ji Wang's gaze was fixed on my face, and his deep pupils reflected my reflection. I'm serious, I nodded hastily, with an evasive feeling in my heart. I know. But Ji Wang suddenly seemed to see through my intentions, and his tone was gloomy. Give me an answer before 8 o'clock tomorrow night, 1 minute late, and I'll sue you. Tisk, I kicked him. Are you courting death? Ji Wang laughed heartily and reached out to rub the top of my head. So, I advise you not to stand up a lawyer easily. Your days will be very convict-worthy. I simply put my two wrists together and pushed them in front of him. I said unhappily, come on, call the police, arrest me, come on. My wrists were grabbed and yanked suddenly. And my face hit a solid and warm chest. Ji Wang hugged me in his arms and held me tightly, caught me, silence like a chicken. What's going on? Bang, something fell to the ground at the corner of the intersection. I turned my head to look and saw Xia Yubai and Wen Xiqing standing at the intersection, holding hands. A paper bag was knocked over at Wen Xiqing's feet. The beer cans inside were still rolling on the ground. But my gaze stopped on the half-fallen box of conspicuous blue and white umbrella boxes in the paper bag. Oh, 16, sorry. Wen Xiqing smiled at us with a gossipy look on her face, her eyes bright. She covered her mouth shyly. I'm really shocked. I even forgot I was still carrying the bag. You two, are making progress so fast, aren't you? Xia Yubai, however, frowned, and his eyes swept over the arm Ji Wang was using to hold me. His tone was cold. Still being affectionate at the doorstep, haven't you hugged enough? Wen Xiqing's expression froze slightly. Ji Wang, however, raised his eyebrows. Nope, not enough. Nope, my ass. I quickly stepped back from Ji Wang's arms and touched my blushing face. Xia Yubai's eyes became even darker. He came over and pulled me away from Ji Wang. What was the result of the examination? Ah, it's okay, I shook my head. Just pay attention to my diet in the future and have regular check-ups. And there won't be any problems. Xia Yubai's expression softened slightly, and he nodded. Wen Xiqing stepped forward with a smile and took his arm. Yubai, let's go in first. Don't disturb Au and Ji Wang's date. Xia Yubai didn't move. His eyes swept over me and Ji Wang. Late at night, and you still haven't finished talking. Ji Wang frowned, but still had a smile on his face. Brother Yubai, you're meddling a bit too much, aren't you? You've already brought Sister Xiqing home. And you're still meddling in our affairs. My heart trembled. I was afraid that Ji Wang would say something excessive. I quickly tugged on him. I'm going home. Bye, be careful on the way. After saying that, without waiting for their reaction, I turned around and ran into the gate. I ran all the way back to my room. I didn't dare to turn on the light and secretly peeked through the curtains at the downstairs. Ji Wang's car had already driven away and was turning the corner. I let out a sigh of relief. Just as I was about to put down the curtains, I accidentally glanced, but I found that Wen Xiqing and Xia Yubai seemed to be arguing. 2 seconds later, I put down the curtains. I could probably guess that it was related to me. After all, Wen Xiqing had known since she was a child that Xia Yubai was my childhood betrothed husband. Now even though the two of them had established a relationship, she must still be bothered by my existence. I could understand. I took out my phone from my bag. After thinking about it, I still sent a message to Ji Wang. Lawyer Ji, don't forget the matter I entrusted you with today. It's very important. Please do it as soon as possible. I was really in a hurry to completely draw a line with Xia Yubai, although I've decided to let the past go, but being reborn once, maybe Xia Yubai can act as if nothing ever happened. I can't forget the entanglement of those 7 years. Nor can I pretend that it never happened. Moreover, even if there was no such thing as being reborn, according to the current situation, it's no longer suitable for us to stay under the same roof and act like a family. 17. I was suddenly awakened by the ringtone of my mobile phone. The moonlight was faint. I opened my eyes and looked at the time on the screen. It was 2:37 in the morning. The caller turned out to be Xia Yubai. What are you doing in the middle of the night? I shrank deeper into the quilt, and my consciousness became a bit clearer. Something's not right. Wasn't Xia Yubai supposed to be having an intimate time with Wen Xiqing in bed at this moment? Why is he calling me? And just as I thought this, a coquettish cry from Wen Xiqing immediately came from the receiver. Yubai, Yubai, I can't take it anymore. Along with her voice, there was also Xia Yubai's low and hoarse gasping. My mind jolted. I suddenly opened my eyes wide. And this time I was completely awake. With an indescribable expression, I hung up the phone with a snap. Are you crazy? But what I didn't hear was that at the moment I hung up the phone, that low and hoarse AU came from the receiver. 18. When Ji Wang came to my house with the documents, I had been cooped up in the piano room for 4 hours, practicing. In my previous life, although Xia Yubai imprisoned my freedom, at least he left me with a piano. Those long, painful, and lonely times were all accompanied by the piano. Otherwise, I might have gone crazy long ago. Why do I feel like you've improved a lot overnight? After a piece of music ended, Ji Wang pushed the door open and came in. There was a thick look of surprise in his eyes. I think you're almost certain to win this competition. I smiled silently. In my previous life, because I was preparing for my marriage, I missed this piano competition. This life, I won't miss it again. My gaze fell on the documents in Ji Wang's hand, and I raised my eyebrows. Ji Wang pursed his lips, handed the documents to me, and his expression was somewhat strange. As you requested, it's all done. I opened the documents, took a general look through them, and then looked up at him with a grateful smile. Thank you, Lawyer Ji, for your great help. Have you thought it through? Ji Wang stared at me and asked. I nodded. Yeah, this is the best plan to deal with our relationship. Ji Wang paused. Actually, you don't have to be in such a hurry. After all, Xia Yubai and Wen Xiqing have just gotten together. Ji Wang didn't say the second half of the sentence, but I knew what he meant. He meant that whether the two of them would eventually make it or not was still up for discussion. It doesn't matter, even if it's not Wen Xiqing, but someone else. We still need to avoid suspicion. And the phone call from last night flashed in my mind. I covered my face. Wen Xiqing is in a hurry. Tisk. A look of disgust appeared between Ji Wang's eyebrows. Stay away from her. I widened my eyes slightly in surprise. Did Ji Wang dislike Wen Xiqing so much? Then why did he get married to her through an arranged marriage in the previous life? 19. As Ji Wang spoke, he sneered again. She clearly knew that your family adopted Xia Yubai as a future son-in-law in advance. But she still pretended to be innocent and came to snatch him. What's the difference between her and a mistress? What kind of words were these? Wasn't he the same? My playful eyes swept up and down Ji Wang. He obviously realized it too, and reached out to touch his nose. He coughed lightly and said unhappily, "Am I the same as her? Is having a crush the same as snatching someone openly? Before I was sure that there was no chance between you and Xia Yubai. Whoever noticed that I liked you?" What about her? She was afraid that others wouldn't notice the ambiguity between her and Xia Yubai. I even confessed secretly by giving you something. You didn't even see it. Ji Wang said the last sentence very quietly. I really didn't hear it clearly, but when I asked him again, he refused to say anything more. Ji Wang didn't stay long. He left after putting down the documents. I saw him to the door. But he suddenly stopped, bent down, lowered his eyes, and leaned slightly towards me. With a smile on his lips, he said, "Just a friendly reminder, there are only 5 hours left until 8 o'clock tonight." I slammed the door shut. "Just go already." I rubbed my slightly cold arms, shook my head, and turned around with a smile. Just as I was about to enter the house, I looked up and found that on the terrace on the second floor, Xia Yubai was sitting on a rattan chair, looking at me with a faint gaze. I didn't know how long he had been watching. 20, here, this is for you. I pulled open the rattan chair and sat down, placing the documents that Ji Wang had brought on the round table. Xia Yubai frowned but didn't pick up the documents. Instead, he took the coat placed beside him and handed it to me. "Put it on." I was taken aback for a moment and waved my hand. "No need, you can read the documents first." After he read and signed them, I could just go back to my room directly. It would only take a few minutes. "Put it on," Xia Yubai repeated. It was as if I didn't put it on, there would be no way to talk. Helpless, I had to put on his coat. "Are you really together?" Xia Yubai suddenly asked. I pursed my lips and evaded this question. I pushed the documents towards him. "Take a look, just sign it if there's no problem." Xia Yubai showed a gloomy expression, opened the documents, and took a rough look. Unexpectedly, his brows furrowed tighter and tighter. "What? Are the conditions not suitable?" I looked at him in confusion. I thought the conditions I offered were already very generous. I entrusted all the 15% of the shares under my name to Xia Yubai, so he would have 25% of the shares. Except for my mother's 27%, he would already have the highest personal dry shares among the company's shareholders. I still had some self-awareness. Rather than overestimating my abilities and trying to take over the company on my own, it would be better for me to give all the shares to Xia Yubai and directly support him to take the position of general manager. My mother and I wouldn't have to do anything and could just lie back and receive the money. Wouldn't that be great? However, I didn't give him these shares for nothing. I've entrusted my entire fortune to you. It's not too much for me to ask for some guarantees, right? I had 3 conditions. First, he could never dissolve the adoption relationship with my family. He would always be my brother and always keep the surname Xia. Second, I didn't care about the profit and loss of his management of the company. The annual dividend income for my mother and me must be 50 million yuan. My mother was just afraid that Xia Yubai wasn't one of our own and was worried about being cheated, so why not make it simple? Whether he cheats us or not, whether he schemes or not, we just want the fixed 50 million yuan. If the profit is less, Xia Yubai will have to pay us out of his own pocket. If the profit is more, he can keep it for himself. After all, we can't let him manage the company without any return. If we want to be hands-off bosses, we have to pay some price. Third, Xia Yubai must move out of my house, unless it's for matters like life and death, funerals, natural disasters, or man-made disasters. We don't have to see each other for the rest of our lives. Don't have to see each other. There was a hint of coldness on Xia Yubai's lips. "Xia Yu, why should I let you off so easily?" 21. What kind of words were these? I was so angry that I laughed. "You're only going to gain and not lose." "Okay, what do you mean by letting me off easily? I don't believe you can still face my mother and me like before. Not seeing each other anymore is good for everyone." "Good." Xia Yubai suddenly threw the documents to the ground, and anger burned in the bottom of his eyes. "I've never been okay, Xia Yu. If you want me to sign the contract, fine. I have only one request, you can't be with Ji Wang." His fist was clenched tightly, and the bulging veins on the back of his hand showed how angry Xia Yubai was, but I felt completely powerless. I raised my eyes and looked into the distance, putting my cold fingertips into my pocket. What does this have to do with Ji Wang? Xiaoyu Bai, you still can't let go of the hatred from the previous life. What has happened has already happened. For the things we can't get over, my voice stopped abruptly. I was stunned for a few seconds, and then I took out my hand from my pocket. My finger accidentally brought out the object with a sharp corner that I had just touched. A yellow paper star. It should have accidentally fallen into Xiaoyu Bai's pocket when the jar was broken that night, the only surviving star. My eyes trembled, and I slowly unfolded it layer by layer, but a slender and fair hand suddenly snatched it away. Xiaoyu Bai's face turned livid, and he tore it to pieces. My pupils shrank slightly. I looked up at Xiaoyu Bai and said slowly, so you already knew what was in the star jar that Ji Wang gave me. 22. Almost in an instant, the images of the day I was reborn flashed through my mind like an electric shock. The white moonlight that he had lost and regained was right in front of him, at the crucial moment when the words he had regretted for a lifetime could be said at once. For some reason, Xiaoyu Bai insisted on sweeping up all the paper stars in my room first. At this moment, I suddenly seemed to have the answer. I suddenly stood up from the chair, shook my head, and took several steps back. So, Xiaoyu Bai's hostility towards Ji Wang, it might not just be because he married Wen Xiqing in the previous life. Yes, since Ji Wang disliked Wen Xiqing so much. Why did he agree to the arranged marriage with her? Could it be that in the previous life, I couldn't help but take a deep breath in surprise? The reason why Ji Wang and you ended up in a lose-lose situation was it for me? Every time Xiaoyu Bai met Ji Wang, he would come back and torture me. It wasn't because of Wen Xiqing. Yes, Xiaoyu Bai suddenly stepped forward and grabbed my arm. The bottom of his eyes was red, and he gritted his teeth and said, every time he came to me, he was bargaining with me to let you go, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to let you go even if I died. The strength on my arm suddenly loosened. Xiaoyu Bai pulled me into his arms, and as if admitting defeat, he pressed his forehead against my shoulder. I thought that I didn't want to let you go because I hated you, but the moment you vomited blood in front of me, I was really scared. At that moment, I felt that as long as you could live, all the hatred didn't matter anymore. After being reborn, I also thought that everything was in the past, and we could all start over. But Xiaoyu, even when I'm with Xiqing, all I can think about is you. I'm afraid that you'll really be with Ji Wang, that you'll accept him and fall in love with him. Xiaoyu, I might really love. Shut up. I suddenly slapped him across the face. I stopped the words that hadn't come out of his mouth. My palm was shaking violently, and I kept shaking my head and backing away. Xiaoyu Bai, you can't. No matter what you want to say, you can't say it. He couldn't have been full of thoughts about Wen Xiqing when he was with me in the previous life, and now that he has Wen Xiqing in this life, he starts to miss me again. Xiaoyu Bai, in this life, I can only be your sister, there won't be anything else. 23. I don't know what Xiaoyu Bai said to Wen Xiqing that night. I only know that when she came to my house the next morning, her eyes were red. The two of them seemed to have a big fight in the room. The sound was very loud, and there were sounds of crying. Even I in the piano room could vaguely hear it. My fingers tapped smoothly on the piano keys, and the sound of the piano covered up all the noise that had nothing to do with me. My heart gradually calmed down, but I didn't expect that Wen Xiqing would suddenly push the door open and come in. She didn't seem to have been doing well recently. Her delicate makeup couldn't hide her fatigue, her eyes were red, she must have just cried. My fingers paused slightly, and I looked at her in confusion. Sister-in-law, is there something wrong? Wen Xiqing forced a smile, her gaze swept over my piano, and she asked casually, Ayu, I heard that the winner of this piano competition has a chance to study at Berklee College of Music for 3 years. I pursed my lips. Yeah, that's right, you'll win, right? Wen Xiqing lowered her eyes to look at me, and there was a trace of tension that could break at a touch in the bottom of her eyes. My fingers completely left the piano keys. I looked up at her seriously and smiled. I didn't intend to beat around the bush. Sister-in-law, you can rest assured, whether I win or not, my mother and I will draw a clear line with Xiaoyu Bai. So, stop having those useless thoughts. It's really disgusting. I thought I had spoken quite mildly, but Wen Xiqing's eyes turned red for no apparent reason, and she smiled. Then what can I do? I finally snatched him away from you, but I found that there are traces of you everywhere in his heart. My fingers shrank slightly, and for a moment, I seemed to see myself in the previous life, but Wen Xiqing was a bit better than me. I had no choice, but she did. Then, is it still necessary to persevere? Wen Xiqing smiled sadly. It's necessary, as long as you disappear from his world. I'm confident that I can be with him until the end, the words lingered on my lips. In the end, I swallowed them back. In this life, the most inappropriate thing a person can do is to try to persuade and change others' values. Respect, I smiled at Wen-Siqing sincerely, and best wishes. 24. On the day of my piano competition, Ji-won came, Xiaoyu also came, both of them were holding flowers in their arms. I paused for a moment, then stepped forward and took the bright red roses from Ji-won. Xiaoyu looked down at the warm and bright sunflowers in his arms, gave a bitter smile, and then turned around and threw the flowers into the trash can. The slight sound made everyone backstage slightly stunned, but Xiaoyu seemed not to notice at all. He smiled at me. Xiaoyu, can we talk? I looked at him quietly for 3 seconds, then nodded. Okay. Ji-won raised his eyebrows and whispered in my ear, you still haven't given me an answer, so why are you talking to him first? I clicked my tongue softly and gave him a little kick. What are you competing with him for? I would see Xiaoyu less and less, and I might not see him again in the future. He still had a long time ahead of him. Why did he have to compete for this? Ji-won obviously realized it too. He pursed his lips and said in a low voice, then you must give me an answer after the competition, otherwise, I'll really sue you. Me, in the quiet and empty stairwell, Xiaoyu had his back to me, and his fist was clenched tightly. I shrank my shoulders. I felt a bit cold. Xiaoyu, if I hadn't seen the competition flyer today and hadn't seen the prize that the winner would go abroad for further study, when were you going to tell me that you were leaving? Would it be that one day when I came home, I suddenly found that you and Mom had both disappeared, then I would search everywhere and find that you had already left me behind and gone. 25. Xiaoyu's voice was hoarse. It echoed faintly in the empty stairwell. I lowered my eyes and pursed my lips. I planned to notify you after winning the competition. It was to notify, not to tell, because regardless of whether I won the competition or not, and whether Xiaoyu signed that entrustment agreement or not, my mother and I were going to leave. A new house had already been bought. I had also planned a new life, and from beginning to end in the plan, there was no Xiaoyu. There were plenty of people eager to get the shares he didn't want. He wasn't the only one who could manage the company. Brother, I sighed, sign the agreement. Consider it as my last compensation to you. After all, it was my mother who was at fault first in the previous life. Strictly speaking, Xiaoyu was also a victim. There was really no need to take revenge on him. Parting amicably was also worthy of the fate of being family in this life. Xiaoyu's voice trembled. Do you really want to abandon me, brother? We've long been on different paths, so how could it be called abandonment? What if I love you? What if I've already broken up with Siqing? Xiaoyu finally turned around, his eyes already red. Slap. I expressionlessly slapped him a resounding slap. This is the answer. Every time you say it, I'll hit you, until you stop saying such crazy things. Xiaoyu turned his face away, and tears silently slid down from the corners of his eyes. Even his breathing became tremulous. Xiaoyu, what's my fault? I just repented a little late. Your Xia family manipulated my destiny. Shouldn't I hate it? But in this life, I've woken up. I've discovered who I really love. Slap. The backhand slap landed on Xiaoyu's face. I was expressionless, saying all that is useless. You have only 2 choices now, either continue to say these crazy things, and then keep those 10% of the shares and step down from the position of general manager to that of a shareholder. I'll hire someone else as the general manager before I go abroad, or sign the agreement, steadily be your general manager and earn countless amounts of money. Choose one. 26. When I came out of the stairwell, the wind in the corridor blew across my cheeks, bringing a sense of coolness. I reached out and touched my face, only to find my hand wet. Was I actually crying with joy, or feeling relieved after surviving a disaster? I didn't know, but in any case, it wasn't because of sadness. There was a person leaning against the wall not far away, dressed in a suit and looking handsome, but he was anxiously knocking the back of his head gently against the wall. I didn't know how long he had been waiting. Ji-won. I called him softly. Ji-won straightened up suddenly and subconsciously looked behind me. After confirming that Xiaoyu hadn't followed, he finally let out a sigh of relief. After talking to him, it's my turn, right? I took out my phone and looked at the time. I'm afraid it's too late. I'm about to go on stage. After saying that, I smiled slyly. I took out a paper star from my pocket and stuffed it into his hand. Read it after I go on stage. 27. The spotlight shone on my face. I lifted the hem of my skirt and sat down, my fingers landed on the piano keys, but I didn't start playing immediately. I turned my head and scanned the audience below. Ji Wang was sitting in the first row, seriously unfolding that paper star. It was the one I had rummaged through everything and finally found in the crack of the bedside. Inside was Ji Wang's confession to me. If you and Xia Yubai don't make it, look back at me. I've been waiting for you for so many years. From the day Xia Yubai married me and completely took over the company left by my father, there was a new line of words added below. It wasn't really a response, just an address, the address of the new house I bought in the United States. Boom, my fingers landed on the keys, and I smiled and pressed the first note. 28. Afterward, much later, I married Ji Wang and settled down back in the country. Ding dong. My phone sent a text message notification. Ji Wang, who was coaxing our daughter, pursed his lips and looked awkward. Honey, your alimony of 50 million has arrived. You're so jealous. I poked his forehead with my finger. This is called welfare dividend, not alimony. I swiped up on my phone and opened the text message. The transferred amount was far more than 50 million. Below the transfer record, as always, there was a note attached. Xia Yu, meet me, please. My expression unchanged.